What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 9JJK Chapter 251 Advertisement inside a building of the Tokyo Jujutsu Association. The evening sunlight sprinkled into the room to form a little spot of light, bringing a little warmth to the originally empty and dark room, but there was no furniture in the large room. One was just a simple futon placed randomly on the ground. At this moment, a figure was sitting on it, his eyes closed tightly, his breathing was steady, as if he was enlightening and practicing meditation. It seems that everything in time has nothing to do with him. If it weren't for the undulating chest to indicate that he was still breathing, outsiders might think that this was a dead person. Bang bang bang. Squeak. The door of the room was opened, and an old man in a kimono walked up to the figure. Except for knocking on the door, he made no other extra sounds. He bowed his head like this, kneeling and sat on the opposite side of the figure. As time passed bit by bit, the sunlight disappeared, and the room returned to darkness. 527 on the futon, the man slowly opened his eyes as if his soul had returned. In an instant, the starlight outside the room was flourishing, and the whole room was full of stars. Obviously this is not the first time the old man has experienced this event. He placed his hands neatly on the ground, his forehead close to the back of his hand, and his eyes closed tightly. There was nothing wrong with what seemed to be done, but if he looked closely, his body was still trembling slightly, as if he was experiencing the test of life and death. Once there was a person who became insane after entering this room and talked crazy. When he saw people, he said that he would live long, evolve, and become a god. He doesn't want to follow in his footsteps. Okay, let's talk about it. Yes. Hearing the order, the old man slowly lifted his body. Opening his eyes was just the figure in front of him. Although it was not the first time to report, it was the first time to report to such a young man. He slowly exhaled. After receiving the return mission on the second star, Rico was listed on the killer website by the priest of the Kingdom of God with a reward of 50 million. One of them was assassinated by the Q organization, twice assassinated by the Idol Curse Division, and twice assassinated by the Kingdom of God, one of which was inside the enchantment of the college. Both ended in failure and no one survived. Finally, the astral body was safely taken out of the main hall of the Mitsui Palace. Having said this, the old man paused and looked up at the young man's expression. He seemed to want to know his attitude towards these things, but he obviously failed and took a deep breath. But our people did not see Ms. Tien Rico. We suspect that she was eventually brought back by Zenin Ryuichi and others. Advertisement. After saying these words, the old man didn't dare to express himself, waiting for the young man to give instructions. Wrong. The young man didn't look at him, his eyes looked out the window, and the soul seemed to be out of the body again and wandering into the sky. The subordinates know that the information is not complete, but after a long time, the old man couldn't continue, so he just knocked his head, wanting to be forgiven by the person in front of him. A breeze blew in, and the old man's nervous mood instantly dissipated a lot, and the originally aching head no longer hurts. Feeling the change in his body, he wiped the sweat from his head, knowing that he was forgiven by the person in front of him. Since Zenin Ryuichi, Ryuji and Tien Rico entered the main shrine of Susei Palace together, our observations of them have been cut off. If we do not report to Jujutsu College, we cannot accurately locate Tien Rico's position. Got it, go down. In addition, the monitoring of Tien Rico will be cancelled in the future. I don't need her anymore. Yes. Hearing the door closed, the room returned to the way it was before, empty, dark and quiet. Gululu, ZZZ, many cursed spirits who were not up to the ranks suddenly appeared in the originally dark room, and their target was the young man sitting on the futon. Yep. When the young man heard the movement, his closed eyes opened again, and a white light that was as strong as the sun gushed out, and wherever he went, the cursed spirit melted like a candle. Tianyuan, you still changed back. A voice seemed to penetrate the endless void and appeared in the young man's ears. The voice seemed close, but it seemed to be far away. Tien Yuan's expression remained unchanged when he heard this. After all, he had experienced this situation more than once. Remains, since you have become a spirit alone, why bother holding me so hard? I am not a remains. I am the Lord of the State Church of God. I am a god. This world is sick. Human beings are bores. I want to wipe them all out. Build a new world again. Tianyuan. Give up the useless human body and evolve. Only evolution can gain supreme power. Advertisement. The owner of the voice seemed to be stabbed in the pain, and the roar was so harsh in the empty room. Tien Yuan stopped answering when he heard this, and reasoned with a mad believer, that is purely adding to himself. After the roar, the voice fell silent, and when it sounded again, it was calm again, but there was still a little anger in its tone. Tianyuan, whether you want to evolve or not, you are already being watched by others now. Zenin Ryuichi, Gojo Satoru, Ryuji, and Jujutsu High School's three most outstanding people have connected you with the astral matter. I believe that within the next 500 years, you will be caught by them. Tien Yuan frowned when he heard this, and was no longer ready to listen. With a wave of his right hand, the sound ceased to exist. Things are really tricky. After all, this remains has been used by myself for 500 years. The technique he knew was remembered by this remains. Among them was the barrier that he had maintained for hundreds of years, saying that it was unlikely to break, but it was still very simple to say that he wanted to enter. Tianyuan had already begun the assimilation ceremony at that time, and he didn't pay attention to the changes in the enchantment. Hey, take a step and take a look. State religion of God. God sat in his seat, looking at the devastated office, leaned back on the chair, and looked at the ceiling blankly. Tianyuan, the old guy who has lived for so long, still chose to be reborn. Why didn't he choose to evolve? Having said this, madness appeared in his eyes again, and the original messy office began to vibrate like an earthquake. Call. Now is not the time to go crazy, he pressed the crazy meaning again. Come on, tidy up the room. Okay, my God. Two young men in casual clothes knelt in front of him. There was no ordinary people's calm on their faces, and some were just fanatics like idols. After the two of them got the instructions, they didn't dare to neglect in the slightest, and restored the room to the original in less than half an hour. You performed well, and I grant you a glorious evolution. Chapter 252 Advertisement. The two of them widened their eyes and looked at the god in front of them unbelievably. Unexpectedly, they could easily obtain the qualification for evolution? Thank you, God, for giving us the opportunity to evolve. We will definitely work harder to contribute to the church. The two have no time to think about why they were chosen by the gods. All they have to do is to seize this hard-won opportunity. An opportunity to be a faithful servant of the gods. God took out two needles from a place they couldn't see behind him. This is the key to evolution. The two of them tremblingly put things in their hands, staring at the needle filled with turbid liquid in their hands. There was a violent roar from time to time in the liquid flowing inside, but neither of them could hear these sounds. They can't wait to inject things into their bodies now. Children, don't hesitate. Let's witness the glorious evolution together. God's expression is solemn, as if he stretched out his hands like a god, as if he really wanted to witness this great moment. The two of them no longer hesitated after hearing this, and almost plunged the needle into their bodies at the same time. What's going on? It's painful. I felt my blood was solidifying, my skin was falling off, my bones were splitting, and my scalp felt like there were countless ants dancing inside. It was very itchy, but what was caught was a piece of scalp. God looked at the two people who fell on the ground and screamed. The solemnity on his face no longer existed and replaced by joking. If you want to evolve, you have to survive this level. He sits on a chair with his eyes closed slightly, and his two hands are floating up and down, just like an excellent conductor, and the two on the ground are the musicians he conducts. Painful roars, moving music. After a while, one of the voices suddenly decreased, and he could only whimper in pain on the ground. Without waiting for God's command, two big men dressed as medieval knights came in outside the door and dragged the one on the ground directly. The two threw him into the garbage pit, in the deepest part of the church, as if they were dealing with daily garbage, and left without looking back. Such half-dead people are thrown here, and only death has to take them. It's just that they didn't notice it. In a corner of the pit. Advertisement. A pair of blood-red eyes were watching the actions of the two. When the upper door was closed again, a figure expertly ran towards the new person who was thrown in. Not long after, a regular sound of chewing floated over the garbage dump. In the office, another person on the ground has stopped screaming. Slowly got up from the ground. Although his appearance was horrible, his appearance was not much different from that before evolution. My God, I think I have evolved. God saw that he was still sane now, and there was a gleam of light in his eyes. Although the church members of the state church are all mad believers, they will be divided into different ranks. At first, I was sent to find Zenin Ryuichi's troublesome card league. Even if it was the lowest class, it was only worthy of being a toolman, that is, cannon fodder. It's nothing but loyalty to the church. One level above him is the big guy he sent to prevent the assimilation of the astral body. Although he maintains absolute loyalty to the church, he can still maintain his sense of reason and conduct a simple analysis of the battle instead of relying on his physical instinct to fight. Fanaticism is to keep faith and fight unswervingly, not to get confused and prey by instinct. My child, follow the people outside and let them teach you how to control your power. The door was closed, and God looked at the tidy house and clapped his hands. The wall behind the office chair was like two doors. The old man who thought he was wearing a red uniform walked out pushing a nutrition bin full of wires. God didn't speak, and sat back on the chair and closed his eyes. The old man in red inserted a huge needle tube connected to the nutrition chamber into his body. The old man in red returned to the interior of the room after doing all this, as if he had never appeared before. The two of them had no direct communication during the whole process, but they were so proficient. Tianyuan, when can you accept your true self? Early the next morning, inside the Jujutsu high school classroom. Standing in the courtyard, one can clearly hear the roar of a teacher. How did I tell you? It is your task to protect the astral body to complete the erasure ceremony. The result? Why is she the one I waited for? Yaga Masamichi pointed to Riko, who was standing between Sha Yuja and Gojo Satoru. He received a call from Jujutsu's senior executives last night. Only then did he realize that his student almost made Master Tianyuan miss the erasure ceremony because of his own desires, and suddenly became angry. Advertisement Shinobu became more and more angry for a while, and directly picked up the puppet he had just made next to him and smashed it. Gojo Satoru didn't care, and took the thrown puppet down casually, and fixed his eyes to see that it was the orangutan wearing boxing gloves all the time. Tai. Before he could speak, the orangutan raised his fist and hit his lower handle with a punch. Raising his hands high seems to be celebrating victory. This is the so-called not very harmful and extremely insulting. Gojo Satoru looked at the joyful orangutan in front of him, and was about to lift his leg to kick it flying. It was not once or twice anyway, and Yaga would not care. Diaresis, what a cute monkey. Wait. Before Gojo Satoru could get on his feet, Riko took the jumping monkey in his arms first. Yaga looked at the orangutan held by Riko, glanced at Gojo Satoru thoughtfully, and nodded when he saw the other party, and he understood a little in his heart. Fortunately, Master Tianyuan is afraid of accidents in the astral plasma, and there is a substitute, otherwise you will wait to become sinners in the Jujutsu world. No class today. Go out and get rid of curse. By the way, Master Tianyuan specifically explained that the promise to Zenin Ryuichi is still fulfilled. The Zenin family should be there in the afternoon, so you don't have to worry about it. Get out. Xiaoyu. Lila Zhao. Jia looked at the back of teacher Yaga leaving with a warm smile on his face. Maybe even the teacher didn't know how relaxed and happy his expression was when he saw Riko was still alive. Hey. It was Ryuichi who promised to keep you safe, why did he leave and you were with us? Gojo Satoru looked at Riko who was following them, and the 3 words of impatient were almost carved on his forehead. The concubine body is now free, okay to go wherever you want? Besides, you can follow your concubine, this is your blessing. He said that, but what Zenin Ryuichi said when he parted with him still stayed in his mind. Next, follow Gojo and Xiaoyu, they're absolutely safe. After speaking, he immediately disappeared in place, and Lilizy alone was messy in the wind. Gojo Satoru looked at Riko who was suddenly mad, and whispered to Xiaoyu, Xiaoyu, do you know where Ryuichi went? Chapter 253. Advertisement at the same time, inside the mysterious building of the Tokyo Jujutsu Association. Tianyuan sat quietly on the futon as usual. The ups and downs of the chest seemed to contain a certain pattern, so natural and erratic. Suddenly, the originally empty room seemed to be filled with seawater, and every breath was more difficult than the last. The sudden change caused the originally calm Tianyuan to frown. Come out, I might die if I don't come out again. As soon as the voice fell, everything in the room returned to normal. A figure slowly appeared in front of him, not only him, but also a table and a chair. Would you like to eat some? Tianyuan looked at the table in front of him with a wry smile. He is sitting on his knees, if he sits upright, his head is just exposed, and it feels like a dish. Are there chairs? Ryuichi's white eyes stared at the head of the opposite Tianyuan, and the deep eyes seemed to contain the sky full of stars, making Tianyuan almost lost in it at a glance. I didn't expect Master Tianyuan to be approachable with this version. With a big wave of his hand, a chair rose slowly on the ground, directly dragging Tianyuan in front of him. Tianyuan sat on the chair, feeling the futon under his buttocks, as if only the futon could make him feel safe. Dignified Tianyuan. You laughed, I'm just a person who is bound by the sky and wants to die but dare not die. Speaking of this, there was a trace of sarcasm on the originally calm face, as if disdain for this title. Suddenly raised his head, he focused on observing the man in front of him. Before today, he had heard the name Zenin Ryuichi countless times in Jujutsu executives, but today they knew it in a real sense for the first time. Sure enough, just looking at the information can't fully understand a person's everything. Sitting beside him in this way, watching him, an unknown breath instantly envelops him, and is constantly eroding him, stimulating his nerves like fine needles. He seemed to see countless hungry ghosts crawling on the man's throne, but he was shaking the wineglass with a joke, watching them begging below like a god, but he was one of the hungry ghosts. Tianyuan suddenly returned to his senses, a little cold sweat appeared on his forehead. The gap is too big. If you fight, there is no possibility of surviving, so try to avoid guilt. Sorry, I just thought of something in a trance, I punish myself for a drink. Advertisement. He lifted the glass in front of him, gestured to Ryuichi, and drank the liquid in it. The wine in the glass did not flow down his esophagus, but went directly into his body along his esophagus, nourishing his soul. This is not wine. Tianyuan stared at the remaining liquid in the wineglass, and when he looked closely, it seemed that countless souls were struggling, and even vaguely heard bursts of hissing. I actually drank countless soul essences, bang. In panic, there was a violent noise between the wineglass and the tabletop. Why, isn't the wine good? This is a fine wine specially selected for you. Tianyuan was brought back to reality by the voice from the other side. He is a devil. I don't know if it is a sequelae of Too Young Body or assimilation. Tianyuan now does not look like a monster who has lived for an unknown number of years. It's more like a young guy who doesn't know the world. The futon under his butt can no longer give him a sense of security, and now I just want to quickly escape from this place. His body showed longing at this time, and every cell in his body was like a traveler walking in the desert seeing water, expressing his longing all the time. Tian Yuan felt the changes in his body, and a wry smile appeared on his face again. He promised that all the expressions in the last 500 years would not have as many expressions as today. This glass of wine is not good. Tian Yuan arranged the wine glass in front of him and placed it out of sight of his own eyes, and tried not to think about it, so as to curb the desire in his heart a little bit. Do you have anything to say about the kingdom of God? Ryuichi turned a blind eye to Tian Yuan's expression and drank a glass of wine to himself, speaking like a friend he hadn't seen for a long time. Tian Yuan was shocked when he heard this, and even knew the relationship between the State Church of God and himself. What kind of ability does this man have? The leader of the State Church of God is the flesh I have used in the past. I don't know why I have a mind, and I escaped before being destroyed. Tian Yuan settled his mind and explained the relationship between the two honestly. Ryuichi was not surprised when he heard Tian Yuan's explanation, which in itself was within his expectation. Advertisement state. A mirror was thrown on the tabletop. Do you know this? Tian Yuan is no longer surprised by this kind of out-of-the-air object. The appearance of the mirror on the table is unremarkable, just like an ordinary ancient mirror. But this is just appearance. The 8-foot mirror, one of the 3 artifacts, seals a part of the 8-foot serpent inside. This kind of information is not difficult to find, any piece of information known to the top of the jujutsu industry. Anything else? These ordinary words exploded in Tian Yuan's ears like thunder. Is there any information I haven't said? His brain is running crazily at this moment, and his original youthful face is now wrinkled out of wrinkles. Fortunately, his soul has been repaired on the essence of the previous soul. Otherwise, in the current situation, he is likely to perform on the spot. Quite a corpse. I also know a little bit of information about the 3 divine artifacts. I wonder if this is what you are asking? Tian Yuan looked up cautiously and found that Ryuichi's moon-white eyes were staring at him, as if his secret had been seen through at this moment. Against the panic in his heart, he continued. There has always been a legend in the Jujutsu world that you can summon the Yachi Orochi by gathering the 3 artifacts. But there is a Zenmi. Once there was a person who gathered the 3 artifacts together, but he did not summon them. Instead, he absorbed all the power in the 3 artifacts through Jujutsu. The evil power directly destroyed his mind and turned into a the killing. Speaking of this, Tian Yuan seems to have guessed the reason why Ryuichi asked him this. Was it the decision of Jujutsu executives again? These people really like to die. It seems that you are not clear about their decision. Yes. Tian Yuan recalled his memories, with a faint sadness on his face. As early as 500 years ago, Tian Yuan's mission changed from maintaining peace in the Jujutsu world to guarding the enchantment and ensuring that he would not evolve. The decision of Jujutsu's senior management will no longer be reported to me. Over time, my relationship with them has become the relationship between doctors and patients. In order to get rid of this relationship, Tian Yuan used to modify his soul during assimilation. As for why it was modified, I am not very clear now. Ryuichi heard this and drank the wine in one sip. Feng Man instantly wrapped the whole room. Then do you want to die? Chapter 254 Advertisement? Tian Yuan looked at the man in front of him. The breath that was enough to suffocate him once again covered it. The whole person was like being trapped in a swamp, unable to break free. At this moment, he could even see death beckoning to him again. So this is near death. It's really a new experience, but although I am tired of the world, I still don't want to die. He couldn't express his determination with actions, he could only do his best to express his thoughts. No. I don't want to die. Call. The shackles around him dissipated in an instant, and the room was quiet again. Everything seemed so normal, as if it had never happened normal. Tian Yuan stood up instantly, holding his neck with his left hand, holding the table with his right hand trembling, panting heavily, big beads of sweat dripping from his face on the table like raindrops. I thought you had lived enough, and wanted to take this opportunity to fulfill your wish. After Tian Yuan recovered and sat down again, he couldn't help sighing when he heard Ryuichi's teasing. He really wanted to die before, but now he really doesn't want to die. He had never experienced death before, and even had a yearning for death. He felt that he had lived enough for a long time, and he could rush to death without regret. He didn't know until today that everything is bullshit. The fear of death still remained deep in his soul, but it was not stimulated. Just now, he felt death. It's not the kind of panic that humanity gradually disappeared because of the aging of the body. But life is like a candle in the wind, the kind of fear that a strong wind might extinguish him. This fear is attached to his body like a maggot attached to bones, jumping out at the right time to protect your life. I used to yearn for death, and felt that it was a stage that everyone should go through. Without this stage, I can't be called a complete person. But now, I will be afraid of death. Tian Yuan didn't know that his answer was not in line with the man's wishes. Having lived for thousands of years, he has shown such a strong desire to survive for the first time. Ryuichi didn't care about Tian Yuan's answer, because his purpose of coming this time had already been achieved, and the following things were just a whim, wanting to see if the old immortal would want to pass away in place. As for whether Tian Yuan was really killed just now, who knows? Time flies, and the sun shines in through the window again, splashing on Tian Yuan's face. Zenin Ryuichi left, disappearing in front of him with the table. The room was calm again, and all this seemed to be a dream. But the fear of death once again emerged from the depths of his soul, always reminding that all of this is true. Feeling the change in my mood, I closed my eyes and muttered to myself. Advertisement. The Jujutsu Association Senior, the State Church of God, please do it yourself. He can kill my existence, I don't know if you can stand it. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Ryuichi's figure appeared in the House of Everything. Both Fuhesher and Nanami Kento were not there, and they seemed to have gone out to work hard. There was no one around, and he threw the 8-foot mirror on the table casually. Recalling the flattering look of Jujutsu high-level seniors when they handed him the mirror, these people must have understood the matter, otherwise they would not have thought of such a stupid idea. Ants shake the tree. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury suck. Ryuichi is not talking nonsense, put his hand directly on the mirror surface, ready to absorb all the power in the mirror in one breath. Suddenly, a strong wind bulged in the sealed room, and a burst of black energy gathered in the air. Do you want to have all the wealth in the world? Do you want to be on top of this world now? You think? Oh. What's going on? My power. A voice seemed to come from another world, and a black snake shape gradually condensed in the air. But before it was solidified, the black color began to fade like a tide. More black energy gradually merged into Ryuichi's body along his arm. Why, it's still you. You are not dead yet. I am not reconciled, not reconciled. When I wake up again, I will break your body into pieces. It seems that although the 3 artifacts are not together, the power inside will still interact with each other. Otherwise, how could this big snake know him? Bump. With the last roar, the big snake directly turned into a black mist and floated in the air. After a while, the floating black mist was sucked back into the mirror again, and was sucked away directly by 6 Immortal Thief Treasury. With the disappearance of the sealed Yuki-Orochi, the original simple mirror has been renewed and lost its original charm, but this will not affect its value. It is still a good old mirror. Seeking flowers feel the power brought by the Yuki-Orochi, and search for it in its memory. It was discovered that what was sealed in the 8-foot mirror was the origin of the Yuki-Orochi, that is to say, even if the power in the Kusanagi sword and the 8-foot Chonguyu were all annihilated. As long as the 8-foot mirror is there, the big snake will be bred again in the mirror, and as long as there is sufficient time, it will break through the seal and come back to the world. Advertisement. Back then, the person who gathered the 3 divine tools to absorb power was just directly infested by the original power and degenerated, and he did not really absorb the curse power of the Yuki-Orochi. The same formula, the same taste. Open the panel, Ryuichi said silently in his heart. Divine Armament 100 refinements. Successful. The current progress is 100%. 6 Immortal Thief Treasury. Successful. The current progress is 100%. 0 Dispatch of Detained Spirits. Successful. The current progress is 100%. Feng Hu Chi Men. Dacheng. The current progress is 90%. Full Hand. Not unlocked. Tong Tian Talisman. Not unlocked. Deluo Cave Temple. Not unlocked. Origin of Qi. Not unlocked. Looking at the progress bar of Feng Hu Chi Men's growth, there was still a little excitement in his heart. Who can refuse a complete set of 8 mysterious arts? Squeak. Nanami Kento dragged his tired body and opened the door of the House of Everything. When there were people in the development house, I was stunned. I looked carefully and found that it was my boss, so he didn't talk much and threw himself on the sofa. A guy named Zenin sent something to your room this afternoon. After speaking, he put the handkerchief on his face over his face, as if this would relieve his fatigue. Ryuichi went back to his room and saw the box on the table. There is no pattern on the dark red box, only a small lock is hung on it. Click. The box opened, and a short knife lay quietly in it. The 2 sections of the handle are inlaid with 6 gems in red, yellow and blue, and the scabbard is carved from a whole piece of golden nanmu. The whole knife reveals another message at all times: luxury. With the blade out of its body, Ryuichi skillfully made a dance on the tip of his finger, and then just tossed it. The short knife flew into the air and fell into the scabbard. Then even the box with a knife was thrown directly in the corner, where all kinds of luxury goods were scattered, all of which came from one place. Zenin's house. Earth. Chapter 255. Advertisement. Time flies. The weather gradually becomes hotter, and the clothes worn by pedestrians gradually become less. What's more, some people have put on hot pants and wandered on the street with their 2 long legs, which attracted the attention of passers-by. Sister Darling, is it too early to wear this way now? I feel so cold on my legs. It's already summer, what are you afraid of? Why hide with such a good capital? The look in their eyes makes me very uncomfortable. The girl looked at the surrounding Mimi's eyes subconsciously covering her thighs, but her palms were placed on the snow-white thighs. This pose matched her shy expression, which seemed so alluring, and the surroundings were one after another. There was a sound of swallowing. Look. There is a handsome guy there. The girl named Darling did not notice her discomfort, because the man in front of him instantly occupied all of his brain. Subconsciously swaying the girl's hand next to him, Wu Sanling asked her to look along her own line of sight. If you don't reveal your own capital, you won't even be able to speak out when you meet this class. After Daling said this, she couldn't help but pull the girl up to strike up a conversation. Contrary to what Daling had imagined, the girl saw this figure, and the instructions of her elders in her mind came to her mind. The Jujutsu world has been surging recently. We monks try not to interact with them, especially these young people. The elder took out a few photos from his arms. Among them, Gojo Satoru and Zenin Ryuichi were highlighted by the elders, and they were taken out separately for special instructions. Do not, can, trick, provoke. The two people in the photo don't have to remember them, and when you look at them, they are like solar panels shining in their eyes. However, it can be specifically explained by the elders that the monks below naturally did not dare to slack off, staring wide-eyed, for fear of unnecessary disasters due to mistakes in memory. The girl naturally engraved the characters in the photo in her mind. Thousands of elders exhorted people who could not provoke to appear in front of him. It was like a child was watching a fairy tale, and suddenly the big bad wolf inside jumped out, right in front of him. It's terrifying. Sister Daling. That person is too dangerous, let's go quickly. Daling stood there when she heard this, and looked back at her seriously. You were right, he is dangerous, but, sister is more dangerous, go away. The girl thought that Daling had understood her together, but the smile on her face hadn't risen in time. The following words directly froze her expression there. Like a boneless doll, it was dragged by Daling. Ha ha, ha ha. Grandpa Monk, I may never see you again. That handsome guy is naturally Ryuichi. At this moment he was wandering in the street boringly. Suddenly two girls in very cool clothes stood in front of him. Handsome guy, get to know. Daling saw that the handsome guy did not answer, but he kept walking straight towards them. Advertisement, it seems that my old lady's figure is still very attractive. Thinking of this, he could not help but straighten up his chest of considerable size, put a slender thigh on his side, and a perfect S was born. Feeling the fiery eyes around and the faint sound of swallowing, the meaning of pride is beyond words. Huh, what about such a big and handsome person? The imaginary touch did not appear. Looking up, the handsome guy in front of him has disappeared. I crossed? Daling looked around, with a black question mark on his face. Sister Daling, I have already left. Let's get out of here now. The girl tugged at the corner of her clothes. The joy of the rest of her life hung on her face, and now she just wanted to leave here quickly. How far, how far? But in Daling's eyes, her smile was just timid. Shufu Xiangyu, you can't be so timid, when will you find a boyfriend? No, I have to find him, get him, and then dump him. Hee. Oh. Daling didn't get angry, pulling Xiangyu to continue shopping. She wanted to prove that her charm was invincible. Xiangyu couldn't help shaking her head when she heard this. You don't know his identity, I know. What kind of beauty does he want? You. Forget it, but this can only be said inwardly. Rumble, rumble, the earthquake is coming, run away. Help. Don't step on it, don't push, I'm about to fall. Don't panic, everyone, run to the open area in an orderly manner and wait for the earthquake to end. Ah, Mom, the originally calm street began to vibrate violently, and the originally low building also began to sway from side to side like a tumbler. Click. The originally neat streets were shattered with cobweb-like cracks. Advertisement. Countless people were swallowed by these cracks, and cries came and went one after another. Black fog drifted out of everyone, gathering towards a certain place like a river entering the sea. Look, what is that? My Amaterasu god, is that the Yachi Orochi? Is the Yachi Orochi real? Are there really monsters in this world? A white phantom is condensing in the sky. Bang. Bang. The heads of passers-by exploded, and the red blood mist did not dissipate, crawling towards the phantom in the air as if there was life. This sudden change made the already chaotic crowd even more flustered. Shouting, cursing, and crying for help came one after another. Jujutsu High School. What? A hypothetical cursed spirit Yaki Orochi appears in Tokyo Business District. Gojo Satoru and Sha Yuja have not come back in the field. The other warlocks are unable to deal with this matter. Don't you ask them to send them to death? Do. Grass. A group of undead beasts. Yaga Masamichi listened to the blind tone on the phone and threw the phone to the ground. The scattered parts are silently venting his inner anger. Throwing away the phone, he looked at his shaking hands. He is scared. That's Yuki Orochi, a great demon who accompanies countless children to sleep. It represents the most primitive fear of mankind. Our jujutsu teacher is also human, isn't it just to send someone to die now? Urgent mission. Notify all jujutsu divisions in Tokyo to go to the business district to help the people escape. Contact Sha Yuja and Gojo Satoru immediately, and let them rush to the Tokyo business district no matter what they're doing. Except super cursed spirit Yuki Orochi. These few words seemed to have taken all his strength away, and he was paralyzed on the chair, his pupils dilated, and tears slipped quietly from the corners of his eyes. This is not a level of battle at all. I don't know where that man is now. The domineering and demon-like man appeared in his mind. If he was here, he wouldn't have to be so nervous. Chapter 256 Advertisement Secret Chamber of Tokyo Jujutsu Association. The sealed room couldn't let in a trace of light, Only the faint candlelight burned in the room, trying to illuminate the whole room. Zenin Ryuichi still absorbed the origin of Yakiorochi. It will no longer pose any threat to us, and this world will no longer exist. Yakiorochi. The speaker became more excited as he spoke, and his tongue licked his lips frequently, as if Zenin Ryuichi had become a meat on the table, a Chinese meal, and he could not help but prepare to set his chopsticks. But it's just an outcast from the Zenin family, and he wants to challenge the entire Jujutsu world. I don't know how high it is. You can't say that. The Zenin family is very close to him now, and they change their tricks to give him things and get a good impression. Just like a dog. Jongjin, if you say so, if the Zenin family knows the consequences. Oh, a family that has given up Jujutsu's pride, what is there to be afraid of? These people were discussing the sudden appearance of the Yachiorochi in the business district. However, this topic has always been around Zenin Ryuichi, and this shows how deeply they are taboo against this name. 23. Quiet. This is not a vegetable market, talk about it, what do you like? The old man sitting at the head of the long table slowly spoke, with a solemn voice, but the invisible smile at the corner of his mouth really betrayed his mood. Now what we have to solve is not Zenin Ryuichi, but Yachiorochi. I have asked Yaga to send all Jujutsu personnel to the commercial street to kill them reasonably, but their group obviously does not have this ability. What we have to do is to take the Gojo kid to the commercial area as quickly as possible. Use his hands to get rid of the Yakiorochi. He finally couldn't help his inner excitement. Originally, there was a little madness in Gyubo Wuen's eyes, and his hands were also patted on the table when he said the word, Fuchu. That kid from Gojo? Gojo Satoru? Haha, you really are there? Killing Zushin. I like it, however, do you want to report this matter to Master Tianyuan? As soon as the word Tianyuan came out, as if touching a certain taboo, everyone present trembled, and the original lively atmosphere instantly calmed down. When the speaker saw the manners of the people, he knew that he had said the wrong thing, and he quickly lowered his eyes and lowered his head, relieved his breathing, and suppressed his own existence to the lowest level. The few people who discussed the most lively just now stared wide-eyed, and none of them spoke. Master Tianyuan can be said to be the person who has contributed the most to the Jujutsu world. If it weren't for him to try his best to maintain the barrier, the Jujutsu masters could have a shelter where they could rest at ease. Then, the number of Jujutsu divisions, who are already scarce, will be greatly reduced. Advertisement. But, for their own power, these people eroded the power that originally belonged to Tianyuan. The haze and treacherousness in this. Everyone is tacitly aware, no one will put this kind of scandal on the table, after all, everyone is a face. The result was a dumbfounded point out. Ahem, Master Tianyuan is currently in an important stage of fusion of the stellar plasma. For the sake of stability and peace in the Jujutsu world, I propose. When the incident is over, we will report the matter to Master Tianyuan. Seconded. Agree. This is currently the best choice. Good. Since someone proposed, no one of you in the room refutes with his head, even the person who originally said the word Tianyuan can only second it. If you object, immediately notify the Jujutsu teacher near Gojo Satoru. No matter what method you use, you must send Gojo Satoru to Yakioro as soon as possible. The meeting is over. Everyone immediately left their positions and immediately contacted the Jujutsu division in the area. When they saw Gojo Satoru, they were immediately sent to the Tokyo business district. The old man in the main seat didn't move. After everyone left, he folded his hands and pressed against the lower handle, looking at the candlelight swaying on the tabletop. I can't help but feel a bit of doubt. This big snake seems to be not as simple as cursed spirit. Divine state religion underground laboratory. God. We made it. The Yachiorochi was really made by us. God. We really created God. They should be honored to be chosen by us as sacrifices to God. I can't believe that this great object was made by my hands, and now I find it incredible. God stood in front of an LCD monitor and looked at the Yakiorochi that was about to appear on the screen. A trace of greed flashed in his eyes, but he immediately replaced it with enthusiasm. Looking at the researchers around him celebrating, he raised his arms and shouted. We are Lord. We are God. We are the forerunners of this world. This world has evolved because of our research. We are the Almighty Creator. When these researchers heard these encouragements, their originally excited faces revealed endless madness. Advertisement. These words made them more sinking than allowing them to directly gain superhuman abilities. They study science, don't they just hope that one day, human beings can break through the limits and become the real creator? It's just that their research is not recognized by the world, and they have become obscure devotees in the previous countless years. Although they are also serving humanity, those are not their goals. Until one day I met God. Leading them out of the white cage gave them more freedom to develop. Financial support is even more unconditional. It also allows them to see the products of human evolution. Such an intoxicating research environment is exactly the world in their dreams. The oldest research institute among them was even given the position of the Cardinal Master. It is the life goal of each of them. God, Almighty Lord, my God, we will always be loyal to you. You are the eternal faith in our hearts. At this moment, all personnel knelt down on one knee, stroked their chest with their right hand and stroked their forehead with their left hand, swearing an oath to the man in front of them in a strange posture. Expressing his loyalty. The Yachi Orochi project is temporarily completed, leaving 2 people staring at the screen to record the data, and the rest will start the next research. Strive to be able to summon Susanoo successfully by the end of next year. After closing the door, God heard the excitement of discussion outside the door. They have been studying the Yachi Orochi project for nearly 30 years, and they have provided the power to extract the beliefs of the following fanatics. Integrating the power of the cursed fetus in the nutrition warehouse, through countless experiments, tens of thousands of lives were lost, and this finally managed to succeed once. Although it is only a fake, its power is not inferior to any hypothetical cursed spirit. Ha ha ha. Hey ha ha ha. The gloomy color on his face dissipated and was replaced by twisted madness. On the screen before, I saw a figure flashing in the image, and others might not have an impression of this figure. But he will never forget it, the pair of moon-white eyes. Zenin Ryuichi. I hope this gift did not disappoint you. Chapter 257 Advertisement Tokyo Business District. The phantom of the Yachi Orochi in the sky is almost solid, and the huge body covers the entire commercial area. The so-called tall buildings are as small as building blocks in front of it, with 8 tails spread out and the scales on the body. Reflecting the shining sun, the reflected light forms a huge rainbow. 8 identical giants swayed under this rainbow, and 8 tails swayed in the unscrupulous city, as if they were venting their own happiness. The high-rise buildings around them, like toys, were vandalized and turned into ruins in front of them. The cries of human beings faintly pierced through the ruins, and what awaits them is not hope, but one after another. After a few tails, the entire ruin was swept away. Sister Daling, go away. No, how can I bring you out, how can I bring you back? Because it was too chaotic before, if you ran away at that time, it would be easy for a stampede to happen. Bright red ground, scarlet internal organs, pale skulls can be seen everywhere. And the flies hovering in the air are like witnesses of time, and they are lingering to fly away. Did the strong wind that appeared brought up the meat scraps on the ground and wanted to blow it away wantonly? The whole scene is as daunting as hell on earth, at this time. The 2 pale-faced girls were lying on the wall and vomiting, saliva dripping from their mouths to the ground along with bile. It took a while before he straightened his waist. Xiangyu looked at Daling, who was holding her left wrist. Her trembling body, messy hair, and devilish makeup all conveyed her fears to the outside world. But her hand was so firm, and her knuckles began to turn pale due to too much force. Xiangyu was full of distress, and her right hand was placed on Daling's right hand softly, and she said softly, Sister Daling, you never told you about my profession before. In fact, I am a monk. At that time, I should perform my duty to protect everyone's safety. I don't care, I don't know if you are a monk, and I don't care about your teachings. You only have one identity now, that is my woman, now follow me. Daling didn't let go of her hand because of her advice, but just like before, involuntarily pulling her to run away. She didn't know which direction she was heading. There was only one voice in his heart now, that was to flee at the fastest speed with Xiangyu. Although she wanted to leave with Daling, but looking at the people around who couldn't leave because of injuries. She is still ready to follow her own heart, and persist here until the support comes. Advertisement, Sister Daling, you. Look at your 2 o'clock direction. The dashing Daling suddenly heard Xiangyu's voice full of surprises, and subconsciously thought that her monk had supported her. Squinting, it turned out to be the handsome guy before? So angry, when I was shopping, I asked you to watch or not, but now I am running away. How important is life for handsome guys? Get out. The woman who became me still thinks of other men, wait for me to get back to clean up you. Angry, but that man is really handsome. The charming eyes, the calm face, the delicious potato chips. Like a blazing angel descending from the heavens, exuding a terrifying aura all the time. Others may call such a person like a poisonous scorpion, but to Daling, this dangerous breath fascinates her like a drug. Just looking at it this way, the body can't help but want to get close to him. Where did you want to go? He can save. Before she could finish her words, she found that the escape directions of the 2 had changed. Xiangyu. Underscore? Is this an act of honesty while saying no in the mouth? Since he can be painted as a dangerous object, his strength must be very strong. Sister Daling must be kept by his side. This time she looked over there again, her eyes were full of firmness, and there was no more dodge at all. And Zenin Ryuichi eating potato chips there. A huge and evil energy flowed from everywhere all the time, attached to the surface of his body, rushing to blend into his body. This is the benefit after absorbing the origin of the Yachi Orochi. Cursed spirit is the product of curse accumulation unintentionally exposed by ordinary humans. But the big snake is fear itself. Its appearance is often accompanied by natural disasters. Wherever it goes, no grass grows, and poisonous insects are rampant. No matter what kind of negative emotions human beings in the world have, there will always be a part of it drifting into the origin of the Yachi Orochi. This is also the main reason why the Jujutsu masters of the past can only seal it, but cannot eliminate it. Now, that origin is absorbed by Ryuichi. Advertisement. He became fear itself, the embodiment of the devil. But he was not interested in destroying the world, but rather interested in the fake in front of him. Diaresis, a monster created by faith, fantasy and fear? Interesting. In essence, this fake is not a cursed spirit. No matter how powerful the cursed spirit is, it will not be seen by ordinary people when it condenses its body. And this fake, before the body appeared, was discovered by the surrounding pedestrians, and a photo was taken. What's more, no one knows the current situation of Yuki Orochi better than him. The play, it's over. Throw away the snack bag that he had eaten in his hand, clapped his hands, and prepared to leave here. The air here is too bad. That, sir, please wait a moment. At this time, Daling had already ran to him with Xiangyu. Are you Mr. Zenin Ryuichi? I am a Shufu Xiangyu from the monk family, and we want to seek your blessing. Xiangyu was panting due to lack of physical strength, just like stuttering, but she still tried her best to say her request. Ryuichi looked at the two of them calmly, without speaking. Li Hao, his moon-white eyes are like 10,000 years of ice above the 9 heavens, unscrupulous Del exudes his own chill. There is no trace of temperature, let alone the sympathy that belongs to human beings. Just looking at it like this, the kind of chill seems to pass through the skin, through the blood, and reach the depths of the soul, feeling that I will disappear from the world in the next second. Xiangyu was desperately resisting the chill, and now she finally knew why the elders tried to prevent them from contacting. Compared with this kind of terrifying pressure, she suddenly felt that the Yuki Orochi was nothing. Just when she was about to be unable to hold on and was about to retreat, the piercing cold disappeared without a trace. Snapped. His legs finally couldn't support him, and they slumped to the ground. Looking back at Daling, she seemed to have been lying on the ground a long time ago, but her obsessive eyes kept staring at the departing back. Hurry up. He is our only way to survive. Chapter 258. Advertisement rumble. Rumble. The sound of explosions roared along with heat waves, and the dust that was lifted up covered the entire sky. Daling, who was still obsessed, immediately bounced up like a zombie when he heard Xiangyu's words. Grasping Xiangyu's wrist, he followed. Handsome guy, your name is Zenin Ryuichi, and my name is Dorian Fuya. Our names match well. They're all 4 characters. Ryuichi, I think you were eating potato chips just now, and I love them too. What kind of flavor do you like? Xiangyu looked at the chattering Dao Ling, cold sweat involuntarily dripped from her forehead, and even felt that the surrounding temperature had dropped a bit. Big sister. We are seeking refuge. If this man is offended, I can hardly imagine the consequences. After not getting far, 4 or 5 people suddenly jumped out from the surrounding buildings and stopped their way forward. You are so calm. Do you have some special abilities? Hurry. Take me out. I don't want to die here. Help me. I don't want to die here. I still have an 80-year-old mother to raise. When I die, no one will look after her. My mother is injured. Can you take us out, please? Seeing their situation, Xiangyu showed pity on her face. If she had the ability, she would definitely help these people. But now she was just a poor man who was wagging for mercy. But looking forward to that person's back, I hope he can show kindness. But this is obviously too much thought. Ryuichi's footsteps didn't stop because of these people, and he didn't even glance at it. The few people frightened by the cold aura fled, for fear that they would be torn apart by this man in the next second. There was a hint of disappointment in Xiangyu's eyes, but she didn't dare to say anything. Daling was a person who couldn't hold back any words. Ryuichi, why don't you help them? The ants are still alive, but they are only here waiting for help. Poor, ridiculous. This sentence sounded like thunder, and it exploded in Xiangyu's ears. Yes. Why are these people here waiting for rescue? If you have a strong will to survive, you should flee here just now. Or take advantage of Baki Orochi, who is still Sahuaner, and run quickly by his own ability. Advertisement. Even if it didn't succeed in the end, it was considered hard work. Otherwise, like them, following the man in front of them, as long as the posture is enough, there is still great hope for survival. But sitting here, waiting for help from others. Even the way to escape is right in front of them, and these people don't bother to move their legs. Is this kind of person really worth saving? For the first time, she had doubts about her career. The essence of the monk is to help others, and how much of this other person is really worth helping? She couldn't answer this question, and she didn't want to answer it either. She was afraid that the answer would crush her beliefs. As expected of Ryuichi, what he said is more reasonable than ours. Daling couldn't understand this, she only knew that Ryuichi just answered her words. This is a very memorable moment. Those people also heard Ryuichi's words, and their expressions suddenly became hard to look at. Bah! What's so great, it's just a little broken. If I have superpowers, I will definitely maintain world peace, and will wipe out the Yuki Orochi on behalf of love and justice. What pretend to be? You will be rescued sooner or later. I don't believe that no one will care about such a big thing. Xiangyu heard the scolding sound coming from behind, her puzzled expression gradually turned into anger. The whole body was trembling slightly, both hands clenched fists, and the fingertips were white without paying attention. These people are simply the mobs of society. In her vocabulary, social assholes are already very serious abuse. Daling, who had been pulling Xiangyu, noticed the child's changes. Her original nymph disappeared, and she put her other hand on hers like Xiangyu. This is an important stage that she must go through. She should have started to gradually contact the society after graduation. But this disaster seems to have broken the girl's protective shield ahead of time, allowing her to get in touch with people's hearts earlier. There is still a little intolerance. Yachihirochi is coming, run, help. I don't want to die. I want to leave here. Mom. Ooh. Farewell, Mom. Suddenly, a huge roar came from behind accompanied by screams. Yachihirochi. Coming. Advertisement. The huge snake head is fast approaching them like a truck, and the snake letter is like a huge red carpet. Every time it is sucked into the mouth, it will bring a lot of living things. When it saw the back in front, the whole picture of Zenin Ryuichi came to mind. It does not know why it remembers this person, but it just wants to swallow that man into its belly at this moment. Hiss, SS, the whole body crawled forward quickly, and 8 snakeheads appeared above Zenin Ryuichi and the 3 of them at the same time. Madness was revealed in the 8 pairs of eyes, and Shinko was shaking frantically at this time. Without any hesitation, 8 snakeheads attacked from 8 directions at the same time. It was bound to kill the man in front of him. Yep, an even darker, more terrifying pressure than this big snake instantly filled the entire space. At this moment, all creatures lost their perception of the surrounding things, and the figure of that man filled their minds. Everything between the sky and the earth seemed to have lost its color, only the moon-white eyes hung on the sky like the immortal ice, like the Emperor of Heaven, looking down at the whole land without the slightest emotion. They are like ants, crawling on the ground, wanting to beg for mercy, but they can't even see the whole picture of the person. Xiangyu and Daling were ready to forcibly accept death when the Yachihirochi rushed in. As a result, it was not death that forced them to accept it, but it was more terrifying than death. Watching the process of his own death, the 2 wanted to faint on the spot now, but they didn't even have the ability to move their fingers. I could only lie down on the ground and beg Ryuichi to let them go. Boom. The 8 snake heads finally couldn't hold on, and at the same time they slammed into the ground. The madness in their eyes quickly retreated, leaving behind unwillingness, fear and cowardice. They actually felt a suppression from the soul level in the comments of those eyes. It is as if he is the ancient monster, Yachihirochi, and it is just one of countless admirers. They don't know why they can feel such suppression from a human being. But instinct reminds it all the time, escape here quickly. But they can't do it, and even in this world, even vomiting a letter becomes an extravagant hope. I'm so unwilling. This coercion seemed to ignite the tyranny in their souls. The owner of the pair of moon-white eyes saw the state of the big snake and couldn't help but let out a sound. Interesting. Chapter 259 Advertisement. The look in this fake made Ryuichi think of the big snake in the Kusunaru sword. This fake is still somewhat desirable. Read whatever you want. The terrifying coercion receded like a tide, and all creatures stared at this moment like an old man who died soon, panting heavily and sighing for the beauty of life. Roar. The Yachihirochi, who had been rubbed on the ground, raised its head at the moment of relief. Although the pressure has dissipated, they have moved around. But its 16 tyrannical eyes stared at the smiling man in front of him. Although your breath makes me sick, but your eyes are good. Ryuichi smiled at the corner of his mouth, with a calm expression, as if the coercion of the demon god coming to the world had nothing to do with him. Hiss, hiss, 8 snake heads vomited at the same time, and none of them spoke, and the scales on their bodies began to fluctuate rhythmically, as if they were waiting for some opportunity. It's a dumb. Although the design looks alike, the other things are really messed up. This should be a product of the State Church of God. The enthusiasm for faith in them, standing here can feel the temperature inside. The earth turned, and the sunlight crawled between them along the ground. Immediately, the large snake erected its scales instantly, and the dazzling sunlight shone on the snow-white scales. Dazzling rays of light gush out. Good chance. The 16 pupils were condensed like thin needles, like a bolt of lightning, quickly slashing towards Ryuichi. 8 big mouths opened at the same time, and the tower-like fangs were unscrupulously exposed to the air, and the stench from the mouth actually corroded the surrounding cars. Obviously, they know they only have this chance, because they know that man will not give them the life to attack again. Danger. The instinct of being an animal reminds it again. But it can't stop, there is only one chance. Boom. Rumble. The ground that had been dilapidated was finally unable to withstand this attack, and it broke into a net-like fracture. The surrounding buildings sparsely collapsed in the cracks. Xiangyu and Daling were watching the situation here in a building not far away. Not good. Run away. This time the rift was clearly beyond their imagination, and the building where they were located was no longer safe. Although it was only the 2nd floor, it was obviously late to run the stairs. Xiangyu didn't speak, facing Daling about 1.7 meters, she was hugging a princess. Jumped directly from the balcony on the 2nd floor. Advertisement click. The crack instantly crawled under their feet. She didn't stop, the warm energy started from her dantian and flowed to her legs. With a hard kick, the 2 figures appeared 10 meters away. Xiao Yuyu, you are so amazing. I will be yours from now on, don't bully others. Daling looked at Xiangyu so powerful, and looked at her small face with happiness, with many stars in her eyes. Xiangyu ignored her crazy words, and after jumping for a while, a group of people in black appeared in front of them. They made strange gestures, staring solemnly at the direction they came. Two ladies, don't worry, we will take over here temporarily. When you escaped, were there any survivors inside? Crowd. Xiangyu is very sensitive to rescue matters now, and these two words seem to convey some terrible message to them. But we only know that there is a man named Zenin Ryuichi who is fighting the big snake inside. As for whether there are anyone else, we don't know. Xiangyu silently put down Dao Ling, and his mind was purely the social worms before. She wanted to tell these rescuers that there was only Zenin Ryuichi inside. But, she listened to her heart in the end, buzzing. The man in black who was questioning heard the words Zenin Ryuichi like a thunder burst in his ears. There was a roar directly in my ears, and I couldn't hear other sounds anymore. Is it the man who is like a god? With him, this defensive mission does not seem to be that difficult anymore. Okay, thank you for your cooperation. Keep walking from here. There is a lounge on your right, where you can take a rest. If you want to go, just leave according to your original route. The two nodded and walked out along the highway. Xiao Yuyu, you are so amazing, why didn't you take me to run with you in the first place? No, I just vomited up exhausted when I saw the broken body. Broken? Corpse? Vomit? The two spit on the side of the road again? After watching the two ladies leave, the man in black immediately dialed Yaga Masamichi's phone and reported Zenin Ryuichi's news to the side. Get an order to stand by. This command made everyone present breathe deeply. The pressure of death on his body instantly dissipated, and his face slowly became more relaxed. Zenin Ryuichi actually played against Yakiorochi in it. This is too incredible. What's the matter? Isn't it just an imaginary super cursed spirit? Gojo Satoru doesn't know how many have been killed, right? Is this comparable? Yakiorochi? That is a legendary monster, an ancient demon? Seeking flowers advertisement? N. Does this have anything to do with you? Hit him, at the same time, within the war zone. The smoke dissipated. The 8 snake heads slowly lifted up, looking at the bottomless pit in front of them, with a hint of suspicion in their eyes. We succeeded? 8 snake heads smashed their mouths at the same time, but why didn't they feel it all? Are you looking for me? Zenin Ryuichi squatted on the back of the Yachiorochi, looked at the fork of his head with interest, and touched 2 of them with his hands. Yachiorochi suddenly felt a cold neck, and his body scales stood up again. Observed from a close distance, the hardness of these scales and the sharp edges are not much better than those of ordinary cursed tools. I won't play with you anymore. It seems that Tianyuan did not disclose the news of the Yakiorochi to the State Church of God. 0 Otherwise, why release this fake? Ryuichi leapt slightly and stepped on the ruins of the city. Click. The space was shattered, and billowing black mist emerged from it. In a short time, the entire sky was completely covered, countless curses began to condense in the void, and a huge snakehead appeared in a short time, and then the second, third, until the 8th. 8 completely different snakeheads swayed around, and 16 scarlet eyes seemed to be looking at their former home. That mountain-like body seemed so crowded in this ruin. Boom. The 8 tails swept at the same time, crushing the original ruins to the ground. This is the real Yakiorochi. Then he stopped looking at the fake. With the original power of Yakiorochi, he will also have a choice for the cursed spirit that he absorbs. This kind of artifact is not in the range of options he absorbs. The fake Yachiorochi was crawling on the ground at this time, and it could not break through this kind of soul suppression. Can only lie on the ground and wait for it to fall. Kenkai. Kenkai. The real snake didn't speak, and the 3 mouths swallowed the fake snake directly into its belly, turning it into the most shocking curse power, and feeding it back into Ryuichi's body. My master, can you let us stay in this world for a while? Yakiorochi lowered its noble head. Although it wanted to tear the man in front of it to pieces, its strength did not allow it. Ryuichi looked at the time. I'll give you 15 minutes. The scarlet eyes of Yakiorochi revealed excitement, and he began to wreak havoc on the ruins. What tall buildings, what iron towers are treated equally under its tail? Happy time is always short. Ryuichi recalled Orochi and appeared in his home. Turn on the TV, a new drama recently released is pretty good, can't miss it, Earth. Chapter 260 advertisement at the same time. Gojo Satoru teleported to the edge of the business district at the fastest speed. Looking at the surroundings, his brows frowned. There was a trace of anger in the blue eyes. The people in black who had been guarding the periphery all collapsed to the ground at this moment. The eyes rolled up, and the unknown liquid slowly flowed out of their mouths. Can it stand it? Gojo Satoru walked to a man in black who looked normal, but found that the man was too frightened. The language function is temporarily lost. What happened inside? The gray sky, the abandoned buildings, the dark red and gray land. Everything is telling the world the horror before. A figure suddenly appeared, looking at such a terrifying scene before him. The breeze blew, and the smell of blood swept through everyone's nasal cavity with the wind. His indifferent expression of 53 zeros has long ceased to exist, replaced by a deep shock. If hell exists, it is nothing more than that. Yu, do you know what happened here? At the other end of the battlefield, Yuji stood there looking at the broken ground in a daze. Only after hearing Gojo Satoru's shout did he come back to his senses. The dull face slowly returned to normal after seeing Gojo Satoru. Base. One instant, Gojo appeared beside him. I don't know, when I came, all the people in Uno had passed out. The Jujutsu division on the battlefield was also in a coma for unknown reasons. Only this one is normal, but I can't speak yet. Gojo Satoru followed his gaze and looked at the guy who was twitching on the ground. Secondary Jujutsu teacher. Zenin's. Although Gojo Satoru didn't know this person, he could easily guess his identity from the curse power and clothes he radiated from him. The battle here scared a second-level Jujutsu division into this situation. Is it really Yaki Orochi, the legendary monster? Cough. Cough cough. Vomit. The man on the ground suddenly turned over and lay on the ground. Advertisement breathing the surrounding air greedily. The rotting internal organs were intertwined with the smell of iron, scrambling to enter his trachea. This lasted for half a minute. He could finally stand up tremblingly. What is going on here? Do you know? Snake. Snake. 2 big snakes. Make it clear. Snapped. The man slapped himself forcefully, and his right cheek swelled up at a visually visible speed. This is to numb inner fear with intense pain. I don't know the specific situation too well. I originally assisted the citizens to leave at the periphery, and then began to go deep to rescue those people who were injured and had limited mobility. Originally everything was normal, the original Yaki Orochi did not see their actions, but even if his cheek hurts again, he can't help trembling every time he thinks of that horrible scene. Gojo Satoru and Yuji glanced at each other, seeing the seriousness in each other's eyes. The second-level Jujutsu division is already a mainstay in the Jujutsu world. Even if he was attacked by the super cursed spirit, he wouldn't be so scared. Guru. Guru. Both of them spit on their stomachs, their nervousness eased a lot, and he continued. But a sudden pressure came, and I was nailed to the ground so I couldn't move. I just felt a pair of eyes observing everything on the ground from the sky. At that moment I even thought I was going to die here. But soon, that feeling disappeared. Before I could breathe, suddenly I saw another big snake. A bigger and more evil Yachi Orochi. One look. The big 8-kissed snake only glanced at me. When I wake up, I will already be here. The narration was too clear, as if he had experienced one side again, and those scarlet eyes appeared in his mind again. Suddenly he felt the blood began to coagulate, his face was pale, his hands and feet were cold. I feel that I will pass out again in the next second. The second Yaki Orochi. This news is too big. Yu, your cursed spirit exercise. When Yuji heard the culture of Gojo Satoru, a wry smile appeared on his face. Woo, you are too dear to me. Although I can easily control the first level cursed spirit, I can't do anything about monsters of this level. Although he didn't say everything, it was basically the truth. He now controls an imaginary super cursed spirit, but the gap between the two is not a bit of a star. Gojo Satoru heard the answer. No doubt there is him. There is no point in staying here. Yu, control cursed spirit, and bring all the Jujutsu divisions who have passed out in a coma in the business district to the position of the man in black. I will call the teacher and ask him to send more people. Advertisement. Yuji nodded, making a seal with one hand, and suddenly a dense cluster of cursed spirit appeared behind him. Most of them are level 3, and a small part are level 2. Those 4-level cursed spirits exploded as soon as they came out. Looking at this situation, Yuji frowned, and the living cursed spirits of level 2 and level 3 were also trembling. There is no cursed spirit at all. If it weren't for him to control here, there is reason to believe that this group of cursed spirits will immediately escape from this land. After Gojo Satoru finished the call, he saw the scattered cursed spirit and couldn't help but ridicule. You are using all your old books. I called Mrs. Yaga, and these people will be rescued soon, don't worry. Don't I need to worry? Yuji glanced at Gojo Satoru beside her with a deep look. Then let's go. Whoosh, the two disappeared instantly. At this time, a sturdy cursed spirit came to their place and looked at the stiff and immobile human in front of them. Ha. He picked him up, and the two flashes jumped out 100 meters. The office of the State Church of God. God sits in the chair and closes his eyes. Boom boom boom. Squeak. My God, the matter is urgent. Please forgive my recklessness. The laboratory. Something went wrong. What? What happened? God bounced from the chair instantly, his anger was wide, and he asked sharply. Then I saw the person on the ground trembling slightly, unable to speak a word. Although I was extremely anxious, I calmed down my emotions. God forgives you, not guilty. What happened in the laboratory, please tell me. Not long after you left the laboratory, screams began to be heard inside, and when we rushed in, all the researchers inside passed out. Not long. How long is it? About 2 hours. Understood, you can go down. There was a little thoughtful light in God's eyes, which reminded him of the figure that flashed by before. Is that you, Zenin Ryuichi? Chapter 261 Advertisement? Without further ado, God left the office and reached the door of the laboratory as quickly as possible. Looking at the tidy room, nothing terrible seems to have happened. Do you know what's going on? It's not clear for the time being, but after we came in, the monitor used to observe the Yachi exploded in the room. For the time being, it is suspected that an immeasurable error has occurred on the Yachi. Yachi? God's eyes are way MI, and his hand does not feel like he touches the wound on his arm. Okay, let's go back. I will know the situation here as soon as they wake up. Yes. God returned to the room, his expression flickering. This thing was too weird. If he doesn't figure out the problem, he will have trouble sleeping and eating. Maybe. The old guy Tianyuan would know something? The outermost area of Tokyo's business district. A lot of people have gathered here, looking at the people in black lying on the ground, wanting to walk into the cordon. But I was afraid of being hurt, so I could only stand around and probe inside, trying to figure out the situation inside. From time to time, there are still several people crying around. It seems that their relatives have encountered accidents inside. Gojo Satoru and 23 Ryuichi gradually appeared in front of them. Someone came out from inside. Can you tell us what happened inside? What happened inside? Two gentlemen, I am a news reporter from the TV station. Do you know what happened today? Have you only come out by yourself? Why didn't you come out without my wife and children? Give my wife back to me. Monsters. They are the same as the ones who killed our relatives. They're all monsters. Bang. A stone hit in front of Gojo Satoru. Then the stone that was resisted by the air told them that these two people were monsters. 1, 2. More and more stones were smashed from all directions. Gojo Satoru looked at the stone-throwing people not far away, and the subtle mood that was originally depressed by the environment inside, now a little bit of annoyance emerged. Yu, can I kill them? Advertisement. Anyway, there is no one to deal with the corpses here. Ryuichi looked at the faces of the people in front of him, a trace of violence flashed through the gentle pupils, and the killing stone also emitted a faint red light. It seems to express agreement with Gojo Satoru. He glanced at the reporter and quickly suppressed the emotion. Let's go. These people are just venting the pain of losing their loved ones. Killing them is useless. There will still be more people coming. Gojo Satoru felt that Ryuichi's tone was not quite right, but he didn't think much. After all, a large number of cursed spirits suddenly appeared everywhere in Fuso recently, and each Jujutsu division was almost full every day. It is not surprising that emotional problems will occur. He believed that Yu would adjust himself. Before long, a group of armed men cleared out the onlookers. Gu. A group of cursed spirit lifted the people who passed out inside. Although the armed personnel could not see these cursed spirits, their good qualities did not show them any discomfort. With all the personnel leaving, Gojo Satoru originally wanted to talk to Ryuichi, but Yaga Masamichi's phone call forced him to continue to return to the job of eliminating curse. When this time is over, I must give myself a good vacation. Goodbye. Ryuichi looked at the back of his friend Gojo Satoru, who was leaving without any care. The corners of the mouth that had originally been cocked gradually pulled down, and finally flattened. He has always implemented that Jujutsu division exists to protect the weak. But recently, the high density of devouring spirit has caused a layer of haze in his originally warm heart, and what is even more frightening is that he doesn't think this is bad. On the contrary, I really enjoyed this feeling. Even when Gojo Satoru asked about it, he subconsciously wanted to agree. If he hadn't seen the camera behind the reporter, he would have been dazzled by anger. Is it really good to suppress inner desire like this? If it were you, what would you do? Zenin Ryuichi. Ryuichi looked up at the sky, and the gray sky finally started to rain at this moment. Click. A white lightning flashed the entire sky instantly, and Ryuichi's originally confused eyes gradually recovered their brilliance at this moment. He wants to continue to remove the spirit. Advertisement. The following day, no major news sections reported on the incident. The Kyoto Daily only issued an article stating that there was a magnitude 7 earthquake in the area, and hoped that local residents would take corrective measures to prevent earthquakes. However, the truth is gradually being pieced together by the public in the deleted network. Yuki. My god, is there really such a demon in the world? Upstairs is still alive in fantasy. Where is there a big snake? That snake is so beautiful. How could it be a legendary demon? It's peas at first glance. I believe that the Yuki really exists. Otherwise, why do so many videos suddenly appear on the internet? They also point to the business district in a unified way? Don't guess. The director of the special drama Ashgu has asked. The Yuki is a new special drama recently filmed. The commercial area is just a set. Don't guess it. The taste of conspiracy. Blocking is worse than combing. Rather than arguing with netizens about true or false, it is better to just find a trustworthy reason to prevaricate. Coupled with the fact that every suffering family has a large pension, this incident was covered up in this way. Secret chamber of Tokyo Jujutsu Association. Several people were sitting around the table, and they learned about recent events. The development of things seems to be too surprised and happy. The elder sitting in the first place looked at the few people sitting, frowning. Is there nothing you want to say about the business district? Sitting here motionless, watching the nose and the heart, no one wants to be that early bird. Snapped. A dozen materials were scattered on the desktop, and the few people sitting there glanced lightly, and then stopped looking at it. These things are the videos spread on the internet. They have seen all of these things, and even have several originals in their hands. Presumably everyone knows about these things, then I will say something that you don't know. According to a second-level jujutsu teacher of Zenin's family, there was another Yaki Orochi in the commercial district at that time. What? The few people who had been calm broke the defense in an instant, and their expressions of astonishment were frozen on their faces. The elders in the chair seat saw their expressions as if they had seen the news for the first time. The frowning brows slowly loosened, and even the tone of speech became relaxed. From the current information, we don't know the current situation of the two Yaki big snakes, whether they are dead or alive in their lives. In addition, we need to figure out whether these two Yaki Orochi are related to Zenin Ryuichi, or to be more precise, has he become one of them? Finally, we need someone to sort out the incident from the beginning to the end, and present it to Master Tianyuan in a very concise situation. You. Who is going? Chapter 262 Advertisement. Everyone said nothing, but turned their eyes to the end of the table at the same time. There was an old man in a kimono sitting there, feeling the unkind gaze around him, and a wry smile appeared on his face. His status is the lowest, and his main task here is to give Master Tianyuan a message. Although this errand looks easy, but it feels very uncomfortable. Let me go. The others nodded and looked away. The old man was also very conscious, knowing that he could not participate in the discussion afterwards, so he sorted out the information on the table. Leaving this conference room, there is still a major question now: why was the first Yaki Orochi be seen? Obviously everyone hasn't thought about this issue. After all, they are all jujutsu teachers, and everyone in contact with them is also in this circle. It has become a habit to see cursed spirit, and suddenly I even looked suspiciously at the theme when I heard this question. Need to ask this question? Wrong. The people below instantly understood what he meant. A special grade cursed spirit, no matter how strong it is, it will not be recorded on a mobile phone and spread on the internet. But according to the news they learned from the survivors, the appearance of the first serpent fully met the conditions for the appearance of the super cursed spirit. Could it be? This is a man-made cursed spirit? Thinking of this, everyone once again focused their eyes on someone. The man was wearing glasses, an inch-headed, and white research clothing, but in terms of its oldness and newness, this clothing should not have been in the laboratory, and the whole person was clean and incompatible with the environment here. You don't have to look at me like this. Although I am committed to studying curse, I ask myself that I have not yet been able to reach the stage of creating God. Then what have you studied for so many years? That is, we have unconditionally provided you with resources for so many years. Don't we just want to share your research? So far, we haven't researched any useful things. Oh, it's not even as good as the research done on some stinky fish, rotten shrimp. Everyone took advantage of this opportunity to radiate all the grievances in their hearts. Their resources are not brought by the wind. After so many years of investment, they have exchanged a few first-level cursed tools. Who can stand this? Quiet, listen to him finish. The man pushed his glasses calmly, paying no attention to their irony. Although I don't know if the big snake is a man-made thing, it is obviously only a semi-finished product. If you can get its production method, I promise. Amaterasu will come to the world to clean up all filth. His research has already entered a bottleneck period, and he has tried countless methods and has not been able to create a cursed spirit that can be seen by the world. However, he did not give up, but put all the resources sent by others into it. It is still stuck at this stage of manifestation. Advertisement. As for the so-called Yachi Orochi, several of the cultivation tanks in the laboratory were transformed with the 5th level cursed spirit. Is that useful? He is not even willing to treat these fakes as his own works. He has his own pride, since it is going to be made. Then create a god that can be seen and heard by people all over the world. His words were not recognized by others, but he was no longer ridiculed. I have my own little 9 in my heart. The elder looked at the expressions of the others, and probably knew what they were thinking. He was full of disdain, but his face was still serious. Well, the meeting is over, the meeting is over. Everyone left their seats as quickly as possible, and now they didn't care what the second Yaki Orochi was. Only the Yaki Orochi in the photo was left in his eyes. At the same time, the old man in a kimono appeared again at the entrance of Tianyuan's house. Boom boom boom. Push the door in. Seeing the situation inside, he was taken aback. A lot of furniture has been placed in the previously empty room. The calligraphy and paintings on the walls, the cabinets on the sides, and the tatami mats at the feet no longer indicate that the owner of this house has begun to improve his lifestyle. The most eye-catching thing is the tea table placed in the middle. At this time, the curling smoke entangled in it for a long time without dissipating. The old man seemed to have returned to his youth in an instant. Come, sit down and say. A magnetic voice interrupted his thoughts. Thanks. He bowed deeply to the young man who was kneeling and sitting at the tea table, and stepped to sit opposite him. Looking at Tianyuan in front of him, thinking about what those people were saying, I was full of feelings in my heart. Organize your thoughts and tell the matter briefly. By the way, he also spread out the materials in his hand for him to watch. For some reason, there was no substantial pressure to report this time. There is just a little respect for the superiors. Did Master Tianyuan succeed? What the heart thinks, what the thought is. Advertisement. I accidentally asked what was in my heart. Alright, almost. Hearing this, the old man stopped talking, and when Tianyuan finished reading, he left here with the information. The room was calm again. Tianyuan calmly looked at the incense burner on the stage. Recalling what God said to himself before. Diaresis, so far, I am the person who is closest to the truth except Zenin Ryuichi. It turned out to be before the kimono elderly report. God had already contacted Tianyuan again by some means. Both inside and outside are asking about the relationship between Yakirochi and Zenin Ryuichi. I heard him in the mist, and didn't know how to answer. He didn't speak at all, and the angry god broke the connection. But now it's all strung together. Unexpectedly, that man really absorbed all the original power of Yakirochi. It was actually released in the urban area, but really. Do whatever you want. He was very disgusting with Zenin Ryuichi's behavior, but he couldn't do much. Even standing in front of that man requires his approval. His own strength really doesn't deserve to be in front of him. Ontario's people should do their best, and let them solve the problems of the two parties themselves. Outside the Hall of State Church of God. Li Hao. The door was open. It seemed to welcome every tired pedestrian in and rest, but there was no one inside. The sun is just right at noon, but this kind of environment still makes people feel chills in their hearts. An old man holding an umbrella stood outside the gate, ready to lift his leg into the door. In an instant, my heart felt weak. He looked up at the tall tower located in the backyard of the main hall. Inside the tower is the place where the followers of the State Church of God usually live. God's office is on the second top floor of the tower. He likes the feeling of overlooking everything. At that time, he felt that he was the master of everything in the world, and he could adjust his mood. As for the top floor, it is a position belonging to a certain god, temporarily vacant. The old man looked at the office and raised the corner of his mouth slightly. His muddy eyes were filled with mockery, and he turned his head and left without being too nostalgic. Good luck. A strong wind blew the black umbrella in his hand, revealing the shocking stitching marks on his head. Chapter 263 Advertisement. God's office in the State Church of God. God was looking tangled at the position that once belonged to him. All the tables and chairs that belonged to him disappeared, replaced by a square table with a glass of red wine on it. A man is sitting in a chair and savoring a glass of wine. God looked at this familiar man and used him as his imaginary enemy countless times in his mind. When this man really appeared in front of him, he knew how ridiculous his previous thoughts were. Subconsciously touched his arm, feeling a little bit more in my heart. How did you find here? Although the State Church of God is well known, there are people in charge in each area, and people will communicate with them through shouting every week. When you encounter someone with a fanatic system, they will be directly transmitted through some kind of ritual. And here, it is true that those peripheral members do not know. The entire State Church of God is located on the small island group on the edge of Fusang. Facing the sea and leaning on the cliff with its back, most of the people inside will hardly have the opportunity to contact the outside. And this man found his office directly. How could this not make him feel frightened? Sit. A chair appeared in front of him, and a glass of wine was placed on the table in front of him. But God didn't dare to move. He is still unsure of the man's purpose here. I'm afraid I won't get up again if I sit down. So timid. Tianyuan is much better than you. When God heard this, he was shocked in a cold sweat. He actually went to see Tianyuan. That must know my identity. No, I want to merge the curse fetus quickly, otherwise, there is no chance of winning. God didn't dare to speak, and walked slowly behind Ryuichi. He was not for a sneak attack, but because his odds of winning were within the wall. Ryuichi sipped the red wine and looked at the slowly moving god. A trace of disdain passed through his eyes. Advertisement. If it weren't for being bothered twice, he would not have any interest in this kind of underground maggots. Snapped. God suddenly exerted his strength, and a dodge appeared beside the stone lion sculpture on the right side of the wall, and smashed it with a punch. Gululu. Gululu. I believe in the Lord. I believe in God. I believe in. Ah. There is no God in the world. There is no God in the world. Two humanoid monsters with their big mouths open, their pupils turned up, the black liquid in their mouths kept dripping, and white smoke appeared on the ground. At the same time, the alarm bell rang inside the entire tower, and all the combatants ran to the top floor as soon as possible. The loud alarm bell did not have any effect on Ryuichi, but the two monsters that are neither human nor ghost are disgusting. These two monsters are semi-finished products that have failed to transform the medicine. They have no consciousness, but they can attack like mad believers. They have been kept in the secret room for pastime. Unexpectedly, it can be used to delay time in this situation. It is really not in vain to raise them. God didn't look at them, but took advantage of this opportunity to escape into the secret room, trying to use the fastest time to increase the power to the highest. God. God. I am God. No God. No God. At this moment, the two monsters rushed directly to Ryuichi, who was sitting there. Affect the mood. After finishing speaking, he lifted the wine glass and threw it directly out, and countless terrifying faces appeared on the surface of the blood-red water droplets, as if they wanted to take this opportunity to escape. But everything is in vain, only wailing. After the two monsters touched the red wine, the liquid penetrated into them as if there was life. Ah! Gurululu. Immediately, their two bodies began to glow with white bubbles as if they were corroded by sulfuric acid, and their dry skin began to corrode rapidly, instantly turning into two stalls of rotting water. White smoke filled the room with the stench. Ryuichi did not stay and left the office directly. The purpose of his coming this time is not to destroy the state religion. I was just interested in the appearance of the Yakiorochi, and I came over to see if any other ghosts were made. Now it seems that there is no advertisement. The corridor was already full of guards, the moment he saw Zenin Ryuichi. Everyone began to go into a state of madness, and the corners of their mouths couldn't help but shed water, and the feverish eyes seemed to want to swallow them alive. Ah! Haha! Is this what God said about Zenin Ryuichi? Catch him, catch him. Hey, 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 he is so powerful, he will be even more powerful after evolution. I have decided, I want to follow him. No, no way, can't let him go, he hasn't accepted evolution yet, can't let him go like this. This fiery look made Ryuichi think of the card league in the school. The same organization, the same look, the same so disgusting. Step aside. Not only did those people fail to give up, they stood more concentrated, and directly filled the entire corridor. What's more, they climbed onto the shoulders of their predecessors just to look at him. No, no, you haven't evolved yet, how can I just let you go like this? Join us. God will give you even more powerful power. Come on, come on. Come on, evolve, evolution, evolution. There was a little disgust in Ryuichi's white eyes. Seeing them like this, he stopped talking and walked forward with his legs raised. The group of people thought they had moved the man in front of them, and everyone's faces were smirking. It is as if Ryuichi's joining has brought immeasurable happiness to each of them. But the reality has taught them a bitter lesson. When Ryuichi was less than 10 meters away from them, they were pushed against the walls on both sides by an invisible force. However, this did not make this group of fanatic believers have the intention to retreat. Instead, they crowded forward more madly, seeming to want to use crowd tactics to stop Ryuichi from advancing. But all this is in vain. Ryuichi's pace did not slow down because of this group of people, but those who blocked the road in the front had already begun to shock because of the congestion behind. Even death. His footsteps have slowed down. We will succeed soon. The person in front has fallen. We can't stop our progress. Stepping on my shoulder, we rushed over. No, no, I must let him be my leader. I like his character so much. Even if you die, I want you to join us. I believe that God will bring us warriors back to life. Ryuichi's feet flashed, and the figure appeared 10 meters away. The original white and flawless wall was instantly stained red with blood, and those broken limbs invaded the wall like sculptures. But they do not regret it, and always firmly believe that that man will be influenced by God and join the glorious evolution. Chapter 264 Advertisement. Ryuichi kept walking, and soon came to the door of the laboratory. There is no one here, and the researcher who had passed out hasn't woken up yet. The guard who was supposed to handle the door, after hearing the sirens, followed the troops to intercept Ryuichi. It should be decorated on the wall of a certain floor now. Ryuichi pushed the door and entered the laboratory. The inside has been cleaned, and the experimental information is in those specially customized encrypted cabinets. As for the password, only God and the head of the laboratory know. But obviously neither of them is there. Ryuichi didn't scroll through the data, but clicked on the screen. Watching the video of the experiment that has not been deleted. The 3-hour video was watched by him at 30 times the speed. It records in detail the entire process of the fake from selection to release. Even when it appeared, the deaths of several passers-by were recorded. It seems that their success is not accidental. Ryuichi waved his hand, and those customized password boxes opened automatically, sending him the relevant information that belonged to Yakiorochi. Forbid him to watch carefully. There was a sudden roar from the ceiling. It seemed that a heavy object was breaking through from above. Boom. Speaking of it, the ceiling of the laboratory burst in an instant, and the twisted steel bars of the broken cement carrier spread out like grenades, smashing all the objects in the laboratory. Ahaha. Zenin Ryuichi. Unexpectedly, your arrival turned out to be an opportunity for my successful integration. So, I give you a chance to surrender to me. Furthermore, I will still grant you evolution and give you the opportunity to touch the realm of God. The voice sounded, it was difficult to distinguish between male and female, and it only made people feel that the scalp was numb, and I couldn't help but want to buckle the wall. God put his hands on his chest, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and arrogantly extended an invitation to Zenin Ryuichi. He believed that the man in front of him would immediately agree to his invitation when he saw his current state. His tall body, strong muscles, and unparalleled strength made him feel better than ever before. Because his previous identity was just the remains of a slightly savvy Tianyuan. Even if his body blended with each other through the surviving minds of Tianyuan. Advertisement, but his soul will always be missing one piece, and it will not be repaired by the body. Therefore, his soul had infinite imaginations about the form of Tianyuan's evolved form, and had an uncontrollable desire. He believed that the appearance of Tianyuan after evolution was his true appearance. It is also what the gods should have. After he successfully escaped, he began to wander in the world, looking for a way to fill the vacancy in his soul. It was not successful until the emergence of Kamo Shanlun, the one in the Jujutsu world who had the shame of big three sorcerer families, to break the deadlock. Kamo Shanlun glanced at him and knew where his frustration was, told him the solution, and personally helped him build the injection machine. As long as you find the cursed spirit that brings together human beliefs, capture and absorb it, your broken soul will be made up for. At that time you will also have power that no one can match. After speaking, he left a pile of test materials on cursed spirit and left. Now, he made it. He feels that he is now the only true god in the world. He has one more thing to do before spreading the doctrine to the world. That is to subdue or kill Zenin Ryuichi. When the dust settles, the smoke clears. Zenin Ryuichi's moon-white eyes stared at the information in his hand, as if he was the only one in the world, and everything around him had nothing to do with him. God grinned and slammed his fist toward Zenin Ryuichi like a warhammer. The place where the fist went was like a twisted space, and everything around him was approaching him. With a loud bang, my fist hit a light blue wall. Looking at this wall of air, God's originally ugly face wrinkled into a purple-red chrysanthemum. My full blow didn't even destroy his defense? The current situation made him unacceptable. He uttered a word of silence in order to become the ideal god, but reality always joked with him. I don't believe it. I am a god. I am the greatest god in the world. I don't believe it. I must kill you. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. The collision between the fist and the air wall became more frequent, and the entire tower began to slowly collapse because it could not withstand the confrontation between the two. Click. At a certain moment, he finally smashed a crack on the light blue wall. Seeking Flowers' advertisement god took a look, a good opportunity. With endless power on his fist, he slammed into the crack again. Click. With a crisp sound, the air wall was finally broken by him. Just when God was happily preparing to attack Ryuichi. Another light blue block between the two, this time even with 7 layers. God looked at the wall of air like a matryoshka, directly igniting his inner tyranny. Ah, shameless, shameless, I want you to die, you must die. Strength. I want more strength, give me strength. God can't bear to become a god, but he is so weak. He began to shout loudly, wanting to sacrifice all the living people in the tower, and use their enthusiasm to increase their strength. Half a minute passed. No one in the entire kingdom of God responded to his call. Where are the people? Where are they all dead? The endless anger, like gasoline, raised his power again a lot. The original purple-red skin turned gray at this moment, and the whole body looked like an artistic statue. It's just that the appearance is not so beautiful. God was excited about the increase in strength and directly hit Ryuichi with a series of fists. Ryuichi just finished reading the material at this moment, and this material is a toy manual for him. He has countless ways to create an imaginary cursed spirit that humans can see. Just making them does not improve any combat power for the current Ryuichi. Rubbing the bridge of his nose, I accidentally saw a group of dark shadows beating at me. Although this fist didn't cause any harm to him, he didn't like the feeling of standing here and being beaten. Whoosh! Ryuichi's figure disappeared in place. God smashed into the air with a fist, feeling the slight coolness behind him, and instantly turned his body. Ryuichi looked at the body as gray as the Hulk, and felt the energy exploding from his body. A hint of amusement flashed in his eyes. Can this guy's power be increased infinitely? The innate leads the weak in the sky, covers the change of the weak in the sky, and turns me into a king. I am the ruler and I am the only one. In an instant, a light blue light covered the entire room. Earth. Chapter 265. Advertisement. God stared at the light blue magic circle covered in the room. He wanted to move his body to escape from here, but found that it was so difficult for him to move his fingers. This caused his excitement because of the increase in energy to instantly drop to the freezing point. What is this ability? Why can't my body move? Why can't I feel a trace of curse power? Who is he? God looked at the man in front of him. He wanted to make a sound and ask these questions, but his throat didn't listen to him, and even a groan could not be transmitted normally. He regrets. He is in pain. He wanted to kneel on the ground and kiss his toes at this moment, begging the man in front of him to let him go. But he couldn't do anything. He could only open his eyes wide, hoping that he could understand what he meant from his pitiful eyes. 533 at this time, Ryuichi looked at the Big Mac in front of him. Kneed the lower handle with his right hand. There was a trace of determination in his eyes and a big wave of his hand. The light blue light engulfed the entire space, and the surrounding energy crazily poured into the formation. God felt the growing strength, without the slightest joy in his heart. His eyes trembled crazily in his eye sockets, as if he would escape from the eye sockets in the next second. What the hell does this man want to do? The island where the kingdom of God is located is facing a huge crisis at this moment. The entire sky was shrouded in dark clouds, and the squally wind accompanied the waves violently hitting the island. The surrounding trees were uprooted at this moment and hovered in the air. Looking around, a scene like the end of the world is staged in this sea. This scene was captured by the surrounding fishermen and posted directly on the internet. FK. Is the world doomsday? First the earthquake, then the tsunami. Are we really the last human beings in the world? Fake. It must be fake. I'm in Osaka, and it's sunny now. How come there is such a weather? Yes, there must be a cult spreading rumors. We must arrest all these dangerous elements. Everyone must stay away from there, and don't ruin their lives because of their curiosity. I don't want anyone to ruin their lives because of natural disasters. Netizens who were still discussing enthusiastically, after seeing this passage, differently chose to be silent. Whether it is doomsday theory or fraud theory, advertisement. At this moment, they simultaneously recalled the earthquake event in their minds. After all, Tokyo has just experienced a huge earthquake with countless casualties. Even more, many people have lost their relatives and friends in this disaster. They are in an extremely sensitive period for this kind of natural disaster. This video that was taken casually was directly pushed to the major discussion communities by enthusiastic netizens in the discussion of netizens. Fuya Doling was sitting in the last row of the classroom, boredly turning on his phone to search for hot news. Shock. The doomsday scene reappears. The next one may be the whole world. Since she survived the disaster of Yachirochi, she has been extremely sensitive to this kind of news. Knowing it was the title party, but still unable to control his hand, he clicked in. After the video was edited, it began to directly play the scene of the trees flying together and the waves hitting the shore. The feeling of powerlessness in the face of natural disasters directly passed through the screen and pressed against her. The scene of hell in the business district suddenly appeared in his mind, and he even felt a faint smell of blood drifting across the tip of his nose. What? Finally unable to withstand the pressure, he almost screamed, but fortunately he reacted quickly and immediately covered his mouth with both hands, so that he did not become the focus of the classroom. The phone was directly separated from her hands and dropped onto her snow-white thighs. Sudden. There was a surge in the stomach. Report. I'm going to throw up. Without waiting for the teacher's consent, he rushed out, as if it would gush out in the next moment. Xiangyu, who was sitting in the front row, couldn't help but feel worried when she saw Dailing's face paled from fear. Report. Teacher. I'll accompany her. The teacher on the podium showed a wry smile, but Shufu Xiangyu was a top student in the class, with a good personality, so there was no danger. Xiangyu ran to the toilet and saw Dailing retching along the sink. Sister Dailing, what's the matter with you? Why is your face so ugly? Dowling didn't have time to talk now, and handed her the phone. After Xiangyu watched the video, her delicate eyes widened. She unexpectedly felt a touch of familiarity from such a scene. Is it him? If it is him, what kind of existence is he fighting with? Will he lose? Advertisement. Thinking of this, those moon-white eyes resurfaced in his mind. Indifferently and ruthlessly scanning everything in the world, as if everything is just a dust in his eyes, not worthy of attention. Do not, if it was that man, he would definitely not lose. Dailing washed her face and looked back at the gentle little girl. Subconsciously touched the top of her head, but still changed to arm. How about it? Horrible, I almost became the focus of the teacher just now. Fortunately, I reacted fast enough. It's okay, let's go, anyway, for the last class, go shopping. Dowling couldn't help but once again pulled her into a glorious act of skipping class. The dragged Xiangyu looked at her back with a wry smile on her face. You said, is he there? Dowling's body trembled slightly, and did not stop. What is he? You still think of other men with me. You must have your leg broken today. Xiangyu felt the speed change under her feet, and glanced at this insincere sister. It's a divergence of words and deeds. If you don't want him, why keep pulling me to the supermarket? Although she really didn't want to see Zenin Ryuichi again, thinking of the prayers of her elders at home, she still patiently followed Dailing to stroll around the surrounding supermarkets. Video incidents are fermenting on the internet, but now God only wants to escape this place of right and wrong as soon as possible. Over time, the energy in the room almost appeared to be sticky. But now God only feels that he is swollen all over, as if it will explode in the next second. The original gray skin turned blue at this moment due to the infusion of energy. The height is also raised again in this environment, directly pushing through the originally destroyed ceiling. God felt the pain caused by the increase in strength for the first time. The swollen head was still blinking desperately, still dreaming of escape from here. Fu, the energy in the room dissipated in an instant. God slowly put his hands in front of his eyes. I survived? Click. There was a crisp cracking sound, and he cracked. Chapter 266. Advertisement. Cracks appeared on his body like porcelain, starting from his arms, and quickly spreading around. God looked desperately at the cracks on his body, and unprecedented pain spread into his brain. His body transformed again at this moment, and the originally huge body began to shrink. The smooth muscles are covered with a layer of short, dense hair, and the nose and mouth are gradually elongated. God unexpectedly opened the next round of form when he was dying. Anubis. He can turn into Anubis. But the cracks on his body did not disappear, and as his body changed, he quickly crawled all over his body. Ah, I don't want to die. Tianyuan. Ah. Snapped. The huge body shattered in an instant, turned into a cloud of dust, and dissipated in this world. At this time, the gloomy sky finally didn't wait any longer, and a huge lightning flashed across the sky and struck the headquarters of the State Church of God. The entire building instantly turned into ruins in this lightning. The huge waves, accompanied by the roar of the sky, flooded the entire island. 23. 10 minutes later, everything returned to calm, leaving only a reef on the location that originally belonged to the island. Gululu. Gululu. Suddenly, a young man suddenly struggled up from the water. Lying on that rock, watching the clouds in the sky, breathing in fresh air. Raising his right hand, looking at the things in his hands, a bloodthirsty smile appeared on the boy's face. The scarlet eyes looked at the land of Fusang. Unsurprisingly, the destruction of the island has once again become a hot spot in major forums. It has attracted endless speculation from people from all walks of life. The Jujutsu community, which hadn't paid much attention to this, also attached great importance to this news. What are you doing? The number of meetings recently is too frequent. Yes, do you think we are all okay? Oh, since you don't want to come to the meeting, don't come. What an ability to complain here. Advertisement, yin and yang people. Who else are you talking about? It's not a day or two for a muscular man and a feminine man to quarrel, and everyone is not surprised. The few people sitting behind didn't even dare to make a noise at this time, for fear of attracting the attention of these bigwigs. Shut up. Every time I have a meeting, there is no stopping. Whoever has the ability to kill a special cursed spirit, I will just press the other person's neck to apologize to him. The angry voice interrupted the scolding between the two, and both saw the surprise in each other's eyes. He has never stopped fighting between the people below. Why did he suddenly speak today? The two stopped talking, and sat quietly for the theme of today's meeting. The people below are silent, and no one wants to be in trouble at this time. Snapped. Unlike last time, everyone has a cell phone in front of them. Click on the screen, and inside is the entire process of the island from existence to nothing. Several people glanced at each other and looked at each other. Have you seen this thing on the internet? The island group around Fusang often fluctuates due to sea tides. Even if the weather is weird, anyone who has been to the sea knows that the weather on the ocean is always moody. This should be just a coincidence, not news. There is no need to pull it out alone, right? With doubts in his heart, he turned his attention to the old man. You all know this news from the looks of you. It seems that this is just an ordinary history of the island's transition, but... The old man sat upright, scanned the people on both sides, and continued. A number of Jujutsu masters who are exterminating spirits by the sea have come back to report and say they're here. A second before the island disappeared, I felt an unprecedented pressure. Preliminary judgment, at least. It's a super cursed spirit. Everyone heard this, although there was a little surprise in their eyes, but although the appearance of the super cursed spirit was rare, it did not require such a big battle. Snapped. A plaque was still on the table, and the few people who did it stood up and took a look before sitting back directly. Although the plaque is carbonized, the gilded characters are still faintly visible. The State Church of God. This is a sect that is inextricably linked to Tianyuan. I sent someone to check the situation of the island under the sea and found the ruins of the State Church of God on it. I want to compare the disasters that occurred in that video to cover the destruction of the State Church of God. The feminine man's eyes flickered, and he couldn't help asking, is there anything else found in it? Advertisement. His question got everyone's approval, looking forward to the old man's answer. In addition to plaques and stones, our people also found countless corpses. This answer is obviously not what the feminine man wants. What he wants to know is whether there are more important things in it. For example, reagents? The kingdom of God can survive for so many years, not just because of Tianyuan's coercion, but also because they know the human world. Every time, many reagents will be sent to the senior management of Jujutsu industry. One of the most famous is the recovery reagent of quick energy. When Jujutsu's spell power runs out, he only needs one shot, and within 10 seconds he will restore his spell power to 30%. This small 30% can determine where the balance of victory tilts. Not just him, everyone here will receive this kind of gift. The elder was no exception, and shook his head towards him. We only found a few password boxes that were opened, empty inside, compared to the contents of which had been taken away or destroyed. One more thing he didn't say was that 2 salvagers were swallowed instantly when they approached the lockbox. I tried various methods and never opened it. Later, I found someone to experiment and found that these lockboxes actually have the defensive power of a bit-level cursed tool. He left things at home, which was really not good, and it was good to use it as a throwing weapon in times of crisis. When everyone heard his answer, regrets appeared on their faces. Only the middle-aged man with glasses was solemn and thoughtful. But others didn't take his performance seriously. The State Church of God was destroyed this time like being punished by heaven. I have reason to believe. The mysterious organization that made Yuki Orochi is them. Everyone here was taken aback by this sentence. Even the man with glasses heard this, his eyes were full of desire. The old man couldn't help having a headache when he saw their expressions. Will I call you over if I get these things? Unfortunately, as I said before, there is nothing useful in it. I have said everything I have investigated, and it is up to you to believe it or not. In addition, I would like to remind you that when you see this strange weather in the future, you should send someone to pay attention to it, so as not to be the same as this time. After speaking, he left the act directly, no longer waiting for their response. The spectacle man followed closely, and he was going to a mission hospital to verify a message. A dozen researchers passed out this situation. Chapter 267 Advertisement Tianyuan Room. Tianyuan, who had been quietly cultivated, suddenly felt in his heart. Opened his eyes and looked out the window. A little bit of starlight gleamed in his eyes. This eye was like a sword shadow, cutting through the sky to the horizon. He seemed to see God's painful expression before he died. Why? The sound of sigh is very clear in the room. Since it was his former remains, there must still be some will on it. Otherwise, it is impossible for God to come to destroy each time assimilation and cultivation. Same. Tien Yuan could also faintly feel God's recent situation thousands of miles away, but he didn't make it so deliberately. Now, the relationship between the two is like a rope, cut directly by a force. However, the energy he ingested before he died was really fascinating. Originally, Ji Yubo's pupils gradually climbed up a little crazy. But it was quickly pressed by Tien Yuan. Frowning, I don't know why I suddenly became obsessed with my evolved state. Where is the problem? But, it feels really good. Then he completely gave up the resistance, and directly let the infatuation fill his heart. Time flies, and it has been a week since the island has submerged the world. This incident was basically submerged in gossip news. Early this morning, Ryuichi came to the house of everything and found Nanami Kento was drinking tea in it. Nanami Kento didn't panic when he saw Ryuichi's arrival, and silently put the teacup on the table. Boss, someone has been looking for you these past 2 days. Who? 2 girls want to invite you to sit in her house. There is also a man with glasses, as if he wants to ask you something. Nanami Kento didn't talk nonsense, and directly extracted the gender and purpose of the 2 groups of people, as for the reasons those people said. He didn't bother to remember, his boss didn't care anyway. Yep. Ryuichi said he understood and went back to his house. In less than half an hour, the man with glasses in Nanami's mouth came to the house of everything again. Hello, is boss Ryuichi here? In office. Okay, thank you, then I will. The man in glasses asked with a startled expression and excitedly, You said he is in the office? Advertisement is this guy from Zenin? Yes, it's in the innermost part of this corridor, the left-hand room. Good, good, good. The man in glasses ran towards the end of the corridor excitedly. Boom boom boom. Enter. The man in glasses opened the door and found that Ryuichi was leaning back on the chair and looking at the ceiling. Mr. Ryuichi, hello, my name is Yaya Dahe, and I am a scientific researcher. Speaking of this, Yaya Agawa raised his head cautiously, wanting to see how the boss of Ryuichi reacted. I found that my introduction did not bring me much attention. At the same time, I am also a participant in the senior level of Jujutsu. As soon as this sentence came out, he finally won attention for himself. Even complacent about this concern. Go on. Hearing the order, Yaya Okawa couldn't help licking his lips with his tongue, his expression agitated. I heard that you have a record of all the experiments on the production of a super hypothetical cursed spirit. I hope I can buy this record from you. Why do you think I will sell you this information? This information is really useless in his hands, but this does not mean that he will sell it to others. Dahe's expression of excitement gradually cooled when he heard this. Because you don't need it, it has no value in your hands, and I will offer a price that meets your wishes. Tell me the story. I will be your undercover, bringing you the issues and results discussed by the Jujutsu executives every time they meet. Ryuichi suddenly became interested when he heard Yaya Okawa selling his teammates like this. But this condition is obviously not enough. When Yaga Okawa heard these 2 words, the expression on his face was not only not disappointed, but full of hope. In my laboratory, you will be the first person to get the finished product for all the results of the research. Not enough. You account for 20% of the income of all laboratories. Not enough. Quote. Quote. Mr. Ryuichi, as long as you say, as long as I have it, I will buy all the experimental data in your hands. After several rounds of pricing, Yaya Okawa is now sweating profusely, and he almost raises with his panties as a bargaining chip. He has nothing to trade. Advertisement Ryuichi looked at the obsessive man in front of him, who could accept so many overlord clauses for a piece of information. I only have one request. Yaya Okawa suddenly raised his head and looked at the man in front of him excitedly. He waited for a moment for too long, only hoping that he could do it with this bargaining chip, otherwise he might regret it for life. Become my employee. What? Yaya Okawa even suspected that his ears had misheard. Diaresis you, what did you just say? Not willing. No, willing. Because of being so excited, he shook his words. Snapped. A pile of materials is placed directly in front of him, This is the experimental materials and data that Ryuichi obtained in the Kingdom of God. Yaya Agawa put his hands together and looked at the information in front of him with an obsessive expression. He was very surprised and immediately began to verify the experimental data. Fortunately, he was so excited that he didn't take away his mind, and started to stroke his hands frantically on this pile of materials. In less than 10 seconds, both hands touched the entire data pile. Base. All data disappeared. Then, boss, do we meet once a week? Yaya Okawa was very helpless. As a researcher, he actually hated such meetings. Not to mention the lack of nutrition in the meeting, it also took up most of his scientific research time. The meeting of Jujutsu executives was fine before, and maybe I couldn't meet twice in half a year, but now it has become more frequent. If this is to come to work every day, then Li Haojiao, then he can only accept with his nose. Go to work. No, I'll go to you if I have something to do, but you don't get paid in this case. When Yaya Okawa heard the word salary, the corners of his mouth began to twitch. Isn't his worth comparable to these 3 melons? Although he wanted to make complaints, his reason told him that now he was not qualified to make fun of luck in front of him. If you want to obtain this qualification, you can only quickly understand the information in your hands. Then, I'm leaving first, you can find me if you have something to do. Before Ryuichi could react, he quickly left the office like a mouse that stole sesame oil. With this information, the group of researchers can easily be held in his hands. Nanami Kento looked at the back of Yaya Okawa quickly fleeing, and there was a trace of pity in his eyes. What happened to this guy? He was so scared. Please, excuse me, you. Oh, let me say, is your boss here? Chapter 268. Advertisement. Although it has entered summer, it is clear that it has not yet reached the average summer temperature. At this time, 2 glamorous girls stood outside the door. One is tall and generous, the other is gentle and pleasant. They have the same characteristic, that is beautiful. Well, the boss is in the office, across this corridor, the room on the left is. Nanami Kento didn't raise his head and continued busy with the work at hand. The space seemed to freeze at this moment, and an astonishing sang person instantly pierced everyone's eardrums. Ah, he was here today. I haven't put on makeup yet. No, I have to find a place to put on makeup first, and I can't use this face to see him. Shufu Xiangyu looked helplessly at the busy Fuya Daling. After several days of continuous questioning, the result was that she was temporarily absent, and Fuya Doling gave up making up. In her words, that group of shit boys turned to school? Not worth it? This is where the embarrassing situation now appears. Sorry to interrupt your work. Xiangyu looked at the meticulous man in front of him apologetically. Although his face looked small, his working condition was very much like an experienced hitman. It's okay, but if you want to change your pants, we have a bathroom here. That will affect the reputation of our stores. 537. What? Change pants? Xiangyu felt bad when she heard this, and suddenly turned her head, and found that her sister Daling was preparing to change her pants behind a blackboard. Ah. Where is the bathroom? This corridor forwards, and there is a red door with a toilet sign hanging next to it. Okay. Thanks, Sister Daling, come with me. Without saying a word, Xiangyu ran to Daling, and with one hand, she hung her whole body on her body. My pants are too long. Let go of me and let me cut them. The 2 people disappeared directly at the door of the House of Everything. Nanami Kento looked at the crazy 2 people and couldn't help but shook his head. What kind of monsters and ghosts are looking for the boss recently? Suddenly I felt that the boss was still very poor, and had to deal with the species every day. It is most comfortable to be a hitter with peace of mind. However, the salary seems to be over, in the toilet. Sister Daling, what are you doing? How can you change your pants on the street? I am not changing, I am going to cut. With that said, he took off his trousers, took off one of the decorations on his jacket, and put them together into a pair of scissors. Kenkai, the trousers were changed into shorts. Advertisement. Xiangyu looked at what was happening in front of her with a shocked expression on her face. The modified shorts were wrong, the hot pants were quietly attached to her legs. And it's still sexy. You're so ingenious. Get it done, let's go. The face is painted at the door, and now you can go to see people. Boom boom boom. Enter. The moment the door opened, Daling put out his S as much as possible. If you don't want to come in, please close the door. Puff. Daling stood up straight for an instant, and looked at Xiangyu, who was making a sound with shame. It seems to be blaming her for the laughter she just made. The door was closed with a boom, which seemed to vent the dissatisfaction in my heart. Then he turned his attention to the culprit who made her embarrassed. Really an enemy, it makes people love and angry. The 2 sat down and found that Zenin Ryuichi was wandering in the sky. That I think, I want to date you. Xiangyu looked at the woman next to her in shock. Unexpectedly, after experiencing the business district incident, this woman turned out to be so crazy. He looked up at Ryuichi's reaction, and then quickly moved his body aside. Use actions to show that you don't know her, not interested in. A slightly lazy voice rang from the opposite side, and Xiangyu couldn't help spitting out assent. I want to invite you to be a guest of our monks. Not interested in. Although he had been prepared, he could not help showing sadness on his small face like an egg when he heard this answer. Subconsciously wanted to pull Daling away. We pay. As soon as the four characters came out, Xiangyu looked at the people around her in surprise. The right hand, which had been protruding out, instantly covered his little cherry-like mouth. She just said to pay? She actually presupposes such a vulgar thing in the face of such a big man. There were even some tears in the wide-open eyes. Grandfather, I may not be able to return home. Advertisement, how many? Wait. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Xiangyu, I only have 4,000, do you still have it? Xiangyu is now full of those two words, how much? There is no reaction at all. Subconsciously handed his bag to the girlfriends beside him. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. We only have more than 12,000, how about? Ryuichi slowly sat upright and looked at the two girls in front of him formally. The small one looked at the desktop with a dull face, and the big one was holding cash, looking at himself expectantly. Make a deal. Xiangyu, Ryuichi, he agreed, hurry up and say the address. Oh. Our monastery is at Jingjin Road No, and there is only our monastery there. 3 days later, we will prepare meals in the monastery and wait for your arrival. Yep. Daling was afraid that Ryuichi would regret it, and hurriedly put the money in his hands on the table. Pulled the girl beside her and left the room. Xiangyu didn't recover from the shock just now until she left the house of everything. Staring at Daling with admiration, as if countless little stars appeared in her eyes. Although Daling is very suitable for this kind of eyes, she has been looking at her like this by her best friend, and her heart is a little hairy. Xiangyu, don't look at me like this. If you have any questions, just say it. Sister Daling, how did you think of paying? This, I didn't think too much, isn't he the house of everything? We want to invite him to dinner, should it be regarded as asking for help? Xiangyu heard this explanation and patted her head directly with her right hand. That's stupid, I didn't even notice such obvious things. If it hadn't been for Daling to follow, he might have missed this opportunity. Thank you Sister Ling, I'll invite you to dinner, right? Yep, now there is a problem. They are now penniless, how can they ride the car? At the same time, Ryuichi took the money and came to Nanami Kento's side. 10 of them were pulled out and placed on his table, and they waved their hands. This is your wages last month. Nanami Kento looked at the money and seemed, too much. Chapter 269 Advertisement 3 days passed quietly, and the sudden heat of summer caught everyone by surprise. Jingjin Road No, Jingxuan Temple. All the monks put aside their homework, stood on both sides of the gate, waiting for the distinguished guests to come. Xiaoyu, can you tell me how you called him as a guest? The monk standing on the side was boring and wanted to know how this granddaughter invited such a character as a guest. Grandpa, didn't you say that you shouldn't ask? Why is it starting now? The words Xiangyu heard the most in the past 3 days were asking why Zenin Ryuichi came here as a guest. She can't say that she brought it from the house of everything for more than 12,000 yuan, right? The elderly monk stopped talking, standing calmly in the garden, waiting for the distinguished guests to come, but his trembling hands betrayed his inner tension. At 9 o'clock in the morning, everyone stood like this for an hour. Xiangyu was really anxious. Ryuichi was so busy, if something was delayed, it was very possible. I blame myself for not leaving a phone number. Guests here. Suddenly coming out of the gate, there was a neat shout. The elderly monk no longer hesitated, and walked to the gate of the temple in a few steps. I saw a young man full of laziness looking around like a tourist. The guest is Zenin Ryuichi. Yep. I saw that the man admitted that although he was lazy, he didn't care about these details. As long as people come, we have prepared meals. Please follow me. Ryuichi followed the old man and ran into Xiangyu standing in a daze in the courtyard. Xiangyu, come with us. Although I don't know how she invited Zenin Ryuichi here, it's always right to let her be by her side. Okay, Grandpa. Xiangyu now sees Ryuichi just like a mouse sees a cat. This is an instinctive fear. But he couldn't refute his grandfather's face. Come on, you are the best. Make a fist with both hands and make a downward pulling motion. Advertisement. This is to cheer yourself up. Follow them to the living room. At this moment, the gate of the monastery was closed. Today the gate is only open for Zenin Ryuichi. The two gave Ryuichi to the main seat. Xiangyu and the old man sat opposite him. Xiangyu noticed that Ryuichi's gaze shifted to herself, and the courage she had gathered up instantly dissipated. Shrinking myself into a ball, I can't wait to lower my head under the table. Mr. Ryuichi, please. Ryuichi looked at the food on the table. Although it was not a vegetarian, he really had no appetite. You don't need to eat the rice, just tell me if you have anything. The old man's hands froze in the air, and the smile on his face gradually disappeared, replaced by a deep sadness. Mr. Ryuichi is so quick to talk, so I won't choke in hiding. My name is Shufu Yuzo, and I was the last abbot. The tasks we monks must do every day are chanting before the Buddha and doing good deeds every day. Until today, 3 years ago, when the previous abbot Hidefuku Asano was chanting at night, he suddenly crashed and died on top of the golden Buddha. Later we found out that a demon was being sealed under our temple. We do daily homework so that one day we can resolve its grievances. However, some time ago, the seal suddenly began to loosen, and we had nothing to do with it, just thinking.
The meaning is obvious. I want Zenin Ryuichi's help.
Your surname is Shufu? Mysterious key point. Although Xiangyu was scared, her trembling shoulders betrayed her mood at the moment. Shufu Throne obviously didn't expect that he was greeted with such a problem. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and he quickly stroked his beard to relieve the embarrassment in his heart.
Yes, we are all named Shofu, but we have different blood.
The Jujutsu world places too much emphasis on family blood, and our monks can only look down on others. In order not to be bullied, our monks can only change the surnames of the adopted orphans. Although they are still despised by them, Howlai has also gained a foothold in it.
I hope you can help us reseal the devil for the peace of the world, please.
The old man directly folded his hands and knocked directly on it. World peace. A lazy and disdainful voice came from the other side. Shufu Throne could not even believe his ears.
The world and the unpeace have nothing to do with me. After listening to the story, I should also go.
Ryuichi never looked at the Shufu Throne who was kneeling on the ground, and let others kill him with one head, really good at doing business. Advertisement-seeking flowers Xiangyu looked at Ryuichi who got up and left, and her eyes were even more anxious. Suddenly, what Daling had said at the door of Wanxia came in her ears.
Ignoring the limp grandfather, he tremblingly shouted, in our monastery there are 2 sitting relics of high monks.
There's one in the forehead of the Buddha statue in the main hall, and the other in the middle of the character, one, on his chest. We are willing to exchange these 2 relics for Mr. Ryuichi's shot. Ryuichi heard this, stopped leaving, and said quietly, lead the way. When Shufu Throne heard that Xiangyu was about to use these 2 relics as rewards, he kept blocking it. That was the lifeblood of the entire temple. Mr. Ryuichi, those 2 relics are exactly what we used to suppress the devil. If we remove it, we will definitely die. Please be merciful, Mr. Xiangyu saw that her grandfather was so obsessed. Tears were in her eyes, her hands clasped on her chest, and she shouted.
Grandpa, if the devil is immortal, we will die sooner or later if we guard the 2 relics. Xiangyu's words were like a shock of thunder, which directly awakened him.
Yes, we don't have much time now. If Zenin Ryuichi doesn't make a move, they may never find anyone who will help. At that time, the monks of their line may disappear into his hands like the Lizzie line. How can you be worthy of those predecessors when you reach the world of bliss? He could not accept this result, nor could he afford it. No more grief and anger in his eyes, he stood up with Xiangyu's support and tidied his appearance. Mr. Ryuichi, please follow me. Shufu Throne leads the way, and Xiangyu is at the end of the team. Looking at the slightly rickety body in the front, his nose was sore that he almost shed tears. However, Ryuichi's back figure happened to appear in the middle of the line of sight. Due to instinctive fear, the tears were frightened back instantly. The 3 of them walked through the long corridor and finally came to the main hall. Before entering the door, a warm current blew into everyone's body with the humid summer breeze. The whole person seemed to have been baptized in this one, but there was no evil thoughts in my heart. The sun shines, and the Buddha statue seems to have seen a savior at this moment. Everyone felt that at this moment, it is laughing, Earth. Chapter 270 Advertisement Shufu Throne's eyes widened, and he pinched himself unbelief. The pain in his arm told him that this was not an illusion. The Buddha even smiled. All the monks stopped chanting and focused their attention on the man. In a trance, the lazy figure disappeared before their eyes. A statue of Buddha stands upright in the courtyard. It's so kind. Xiangyu looked at the tall figure in shock. It feels so comfortable. At this time, Ryuichi's temperament that no strangers should enter is covered by the light of the Buddha, and everyone can see the figure that makes him most comfortable from his figure. People can't help but produce a sense of closeness. See me as you see all beings. Ryuichi didn't pay attention to the changes in his body at this moment. Gazing calmly at the Buddha statue in front of him. Have you condensed faith? There is no secret in his eyes in this Buddha statue? The 2 relics on the eyebrows and chest turned into eyes, turning the entire Buddha statue into a sealing circle. The monks chanted every day, which is to instill the faith in their hearts into the relics to strengthen the seal formation. The illusion that has just appeared is because the Buddha statue has been enshrined for too long. It is also the belief of millions of people, and a certain kind of wisdom has been born. This mentality is similar to curse, but more similar to the previous Yuki Orochi. The fakes studied by the Divine State Church with all the power of the church are not as good as the natural growth of others. Ridiculous, sigh. The pair of moon-white eyes turned their sights under the seat of the Buddha statue. Below is what this magic circle uses to suppress. Interesting. Ryuichi knew the identity of the sealed thing and was about to leave. Mr. Ryuichi, you, still not working? Is this our department ruined in my hands like this? Shufu Throne's body was like a candle in the wind, swaying from side to side in the courtyard, as if it would collapse to the ground in the next second. But he didn't fall, he still had one thing to do. Thinking of this, he couldn't help looking at Xiangyu beside him. The turbid eyes were filled with endless love. Fragrant jade must not stay in the temple. She has amazing jujutsu talent and should enjoy life better. Instead of staying here to accompany these old guys to their deaths. Xiangyu looked into the eyes of the monk's grandfather, as if reading his thoughts from it.
Advertisement. His footsteps kept moving back, and his small head couldn't stop shaking.
All actions express a point of view. She doesn't want to go. I'm leaving first, and I will come by then. A small but clear voice came to everyone's ears. That kind of invincible self-confidence has infected everyone present. Majestic tears appeared in Shufu Throne's eyes that had become smaller because of aging. He bowed deeply towards the defense line of the gate. Amitabha. Amitabha. The monks sitting in the main hall turned their bodies to the gate at this moment, whispering the Buddha's name in their mouths. At this moment, their bodies glowed with milky white light, gathering on the hall. In the end, it slowly fell to the forehead of the Buddha statue. The statue of Buddha sits down, the land is sealed. No matter exists in the void of space. There is no sound, no light, no change in time and space. Some are just pure darkness. Suddenly, in this void, a pair of eyes suddenly opened. It looks so calm and peaceful, it seems that everything around it is so normal to it. Just now, it unexpectedly felt a slight threat in this void that was so familiar that it could no longer be familiar. It felt like a hunter and a hare, reaching the depths of the soul. Who is it? The sound seemed to have no starting point and instantly filled the void. No answer was received. Although he was full of doubts, he didn't delve into it. The seal has been loosened, and soon it will come to the world.
The top of Futu Mountain is covered by thick snow in any season.
Looking from a distance, it will bring people coolness in this hot summer. At this time, a figure is walking up the mountain slowly. Although he moved slowly, his steps were firm and orderly. But within an hour, the figure of that person appeared on the top of the mountain. Human. You are unlucky to come here. In the silent crater, a sound appeared in the air. Then a stream of hot magma surged towards the figure. Advertisement, Leak Hu, don't be so temperamental, I am here to make a deal for you. An old voice instantly appeared behind Lu Hu. The volcanic head suddenly left rolling magma. Damn it. When is it exactly? Lu Hu instantly turned around and looked at the frail old man in front of him. Obviously his body is so bad, but the curse power in his body seems endless and tiresome. Deal. Haha. What qualifications do you group of monkeys who have not evolved to make a deal with me? Although shocked by the strength of this man, but it's a natural disaster cursed spirit, I will never make a deal with this group of monkeys. Will never, snapped. A palm lined up on its head from behind, and the boring old voice came into its ears again. I believe you will accept it. After the words were finished, that hand began to slowly exert force, as if it would squeeze its head in the next second. Lu Hu felt the power on his head, and the eyes on his face instantly filled the entire face. The magma on his head began to surge and erupt, but that hand didn't care, and it continued to increase its strength. Yes, I have something to say. I accept your deal. Guru, swallow down the throat. It's persuaded. Having lived for so many years, it was the first time to feel the threat of life. Although I know that cursed spirit will not really die from natural disasters, but, is it still it when it reappears? It doesn't want to know, let alone verify. Hearing the answer, I felt my head loose for an instant. He turned back trembling, and looked at the old man again this time. He was wearing a brown suit and a black umbrella in his hand. He looked at an English gentleman. It's just that the stitches on the top of the head seemed so abrupt at this time. Seeing Ohu's expression, he knew that his goal had been achieved. He took off the burnt gloves and replaced them with new ones. I need you to protect me at some time in the future. Then what can I get? I can promise that one day in the future, only things related to cursed spirit will appear on this land. Lu Hu's huge eyes narrowed into a line, as if he was comparing the deal. I don't want to appear on the ground. Your transaction has no meaning to me. Hearing this, the old man raised the corner of his mouth lightly, a trace of memory flashed in his eyes, and asked softly, do you want to or dare not? Chapter 271 Advertisement. Hearing this, Lu Hu closed his lips tightly, and the small volcano on top of his head began to gush out at this moment. Even Mount Fuji, which has been moving for many years, began to tremble slightly because of its excitement. The old man felt the tremor caused by his feet, and the contempt on his face became more serious. It now appears that Lehu is a bomb that will detonate at any time. If you don't need it to do things, I really want to kill it directly. It seems that we are still looking for more reliable bodyguards in the future. His plan does not allow accidents. Don't worry, I won't provoke that man, and you don't have to worry about making him an enemy. Hearing this, Lu Hu couldn't help but think of those moon-white eyes hanging in the sky. Examine everything in the world like a judge in the heavens. That terrifying aura, even if it reminds it now, it can't help but tremble all over. Don't worry, I have a special cursed object prison gate. The three characters, prison gate Zhang, seem to have some kind of magical power, directly letting Lu Hu's tight body relax. This guy actually has such a thing. What is his identity?
Now, let's talk about cooperation matters.
A week passed quickly, and everything was in the 23rd house. Nanami Kento is busy at work. Nanami, long time no see. Fuhesher was standing at the door of the House of Everything, wearing a straightforward suit. It's been a long time since he came to work here. I don't know if Ryuichi is there. The boss is in the office. Walk through this corridor, and at the end is his room on the left. Nanami Kento said this line fluently without even looking at him. Shi-er's face was black. What has this guy experienced recently? You guy, at least look at each other when you talk. B***********D.
Regardless of his reaction, he raised his leg and walked towards the boss's office.
Bang. The door was pushed open mercilessly. A cool breeze rushed to his face, taking away the heat from Shi-er's body. Although they can completely control their own temperature. But no one is unwilling to enjoy life. Close the door and lock all the cool air in the house. Although he couldn't see it, he could still clearly perceive a low-level cursed spirit working hard in the corner of the room. You guy, are you really the boss? I hide in the office and blow air conditioning and let the employees guard the door to work? Shi-er patted the table and matched his suit, really like a lawyer. Ryuichi didn't get up either, and continued to lean back in the chair, wearing a blindfold on his face, the kind of laziness like a grandpa basking in the sun. Advertisement, hey, I haven't seen you for a few days. What's the matter with this kind of laziness? Do you remember that you were the boss? You want to pay us a salary?
Hearing the word salary, Ryuichi took off the blindfold from his face.
Glancing at him, he said, last month's salary has been paid, you have no money.
Shi-er looked at his boss in shock. Are you not even willing to make up the reason for the deduction now?
And many more. I still have business to do. Shi-er leaned forward with a serious expression, as if he was about to say something earth-shattering secret. I bought a piece of information on the internet about the Oki-Orochi and the destruction of the small island. Someone has proved that the Oki-Orochi was created by the State Church of God. And the State Church of God is on the silent island, and some people suspect that the destruction of the island was not a natural disaster, but man-made. After Shire finished speaking, a trace of cunning flashed in his original solemn eyes. He wanted to see the boss look surprised. Although the news cost him 5 million, he thought of Ryuichi's expression for a while.
That's worth it. The money is not reimbursed.
Did you not hear me clearly? Those two disasters came from one person. Aren't you surprised who that person is? Aren't you wondering which of the two of you is better? She feels that her boss has changed. He used to have an uplifting heart, but now he is only lazy. Oh, if you guessed it correctly, the person you said, is me. Click. The desktop was cracked, and the documents originally placed on it were scattered all over the place like garbage. The person who wiped out the Oki-Orochi, and destroyed the State Church of God with one person, is in front of me. I even wanted to stimulate him with this news. The clown is myself? Most importantly, I actually spent 5 million for this handy news? Puff, puff, here, it was the sound of money falling into the water. No, I have to find a way to earn it back. Thinking of this, Shire's eyes once again let out a terrifying light. Boss, can you make this news public? I don't want anyone to disturb me. When Shire heard it, his eyes were way mi, and the corners of his mouth almost split to the back of his head. To be alive is to keep the fox into a spirit. Then I'm leaving first, and I have to go home to accompany the child. He just wants to publish the news as soon as possible. The future is still promising. I'm 9U1. This word is like a fixation technique, nailing him to the ground. Advertisement. He turned his gaze to the lazy body with difficulty. 9.91? Forget it, it is better to make money than to make no money. The big deal is to set the price level up to 100 million yuan first. In this way, even if it is 10%, it is also 10 million. Also, fix the table. Tear, strips of tearing sounds sounded in the room. The suit on Shi-er couldn't bear the expansion of his muscles and jumped into his arms. Although he was very angry, even his clothes were blown up, but what could he do? He couldn't beat him again, and he was still his employee. Can only choose to forgive him. 30 minutes later, the interior of the office was completely new. Even 2 pots of green dill were visited on the windowsill. Dear boss, then I will leave first. Without waiting for Ryuichi to reply, he left this terrible house as quickly as possible. Standing outside Wanshi's house, looking at the busy Nanami Kento. There was a bitter smile on his face, not just laughing at him, but at myself. Now, only a cute son can soothe the scars in his heart. In the office, Ryuichi looked at the newly renovated room. Shi-er, this guy has learned a lot of new things recently. The window suddenly stirred, and a gray figure quickly entered the room. Climbing in front of Ryuichi, holding an object in front of him with both hands like offering treasures. That thing is like an underdeveloped embryo, moaned slowly in his hand. With the sound of groaning, strong curses emerged from it. Ryuichi looked at the cursed spirit in front of him. A sense of familiarity came to my heart. Oki-Orochi? He had felt this kind of energy in that fake Oki-Orochi. At this time, the figure with both hands holding up could no longer hold on. Climbed to the ground again. Excited, he pointed one finger at the cursed baby, and the other pointed at Ryuichi. It seemed that he wanted to put this thing in his hands quickly. Ryuichi was silent, looking at the figure with jagged hands in front of him. Although he behaves very normally now, there is endless madness hidden under his eyes. He couldn't hide the bloodthirsty feeling anyway. Chapter 272 Advertisement. Ryuichi took the cursed baby. A flash of joy flashed on the man's face, and then climbed out along the window. Ryuichi looked at the handprints printed on the wall and calmly left the house of everything. I didn't forget to say hello to Nanami Kento when I arrived. The office is a bit dirty. Okay, understood, base. Ryuichi's figure disappeared directly at the door of the house of all things, and Nanami Kento was no surprise. Get up and take out the cleaning tools from the toilet. There are still traces of the last cleaning workers' cleaning left on it. Yaya Agawa Laboratory. Why is it wrong? Why is it unsuccessful? What am I missing? Everything is the best, the scientific research team is the original team, and even the experimental data is in hand. Why can't we always make a cursed spirit that can be revealed? No way. Re-experiment. Even if I fail 100 times, I will do it. I can't do such a simple thing. How can I explain to Mr. Ryuichi? Yaya Oga looked at the wall of screens and paced back and forth in the research room. After receiving the research materials from Zenin Ryuichi at that time, he started researching with joy. But things did not develop in the direction expected. The failure failed, should not be seen or seen. Even if you want to reenact the medicine in the kingdom of God, you can't make it. Is this kind of self really worthy of Mr. Ryuichi's treatment? I will give you something. Whoosh, a black shadow flew towards the Yaya River, a heavy hand in his hand. There is an embryo-like thing in his hand. This is a special grade fetus? Yaya Okawa felt the majestic curse power inside the curse fetus, and his body couldn't help trembling slightly. This level of curse fetus may not even be seen by some first-level jujutsu masters. What a curse is this? This is obviously a time bomb. Yoshida Daihe didn't dare to slacken off, so he quickly looked forward and found a figure watching the experimental records on the wall. Ignoring the curse fetus in his hand, he immediately ran forward, stood behind him, wiped the sweat from his head, and said respectfully. Advertisement, boss, recently, the progress of the experiment is not ideal. But I promise, even if I'm doing 100 experiments, I will definitely. Ryuichi waved his hand and interrupted him. It's okay, you take things well, it will be helpful for your research. After speaking, Ryuichi disappeared from him. Yaya Okawa looked at the cursed baby in his hand, with mixed feelings in his heart. The cursed baby in his hand seemed to be inspired at this moment, and he twisted his body in his hand. There was a hint of fanaticism in his originally clear eyes. Ryuichi's figure suddenly grew bigger in his heart, like a true god. Just thinking about it this way, he couldn't help but want to kneel to the ground. Fortunately, the remaining reason did not make him kneel on the spot. After waking up, he looked at the cursed fetus in his hand in shock. Was it guiding me just now? The dozens of remaining scientific researchers of the State Church of God came to mind. Their crazy fascination with God seems to be a little similar to the self they were just here? Could it be that it may be the key to breaking the game? Thinking that the boss hadn't seen himself before. But today he, specially, gave this thing to himself. The more you think, the more true, the more you think, the more you believe. Yaya Okawa looked at the cursed baby in his hand again, with some tears in his eyes. I will certainly not disappoint your high hopes for me. If Fuhesher saw him now, he would definitely shake his head and sigh, too young. Time flies, and 3 days have passed. There was an earthquake in the Jujutsu world. A piece of information worth 150 million yuan was mounted on the intelligence network. Only one piece of information is displayed on the note, that is, the truth about the Yaki Orochi and the unknown Isle incident. Interested people probably figured out the context of the two events through the news on this side. Finally came up with an amazing truth. These two things should come from one person. That person's name is now worth 150 million. Although they are very anxious, they want to know who has such great power. Advertisement, but such a huge price discouraged them. Some people want to buy through crowdfunding, but the news will only be delivered to the purchaser. This adds a lot of unstable factors, and no one wants to be taken advantage of. Jujutsu High School. Seigo, do you know who the Jujutsu teachers have been discussing recently is? Oh, I just bought the news, it turned out to be Zenin Ryuichi. Sha Yuja's eyes widened when he heard this. A lazy and arrogant figure emerged in his mind. Has that man grown to this point? Thinking of this, Sha Yuja turned his attention to Gojo Satoru. Seeing his careless expression, he couldn't help asking. Diaresis Goku, who of you is stronger now? Hearing Sha Yuja's question, Gojo Satoru put the sunglasses in his hand on his face again, blocking the pair of blue eyes, and a relaxed smile appeared on his face. Sha Yu, this question is meaningless, we are friends, right? Gojo Satoru now has more mastery of unlimited jujutsu than any paternal master in the past.
Similarly, he has also grown a lot during this time period.
At least, it won't be the Gojo Satoru who is about to challenge the strong when he sees it. Gojo Satoru felt that Sha Yuja's mood was not right now, and stared at him with azure blue eyes. Xiaoyu, I don't think your condition is very good lately, or else take a vacation and rest first. It doesn't matter, there are too many cursed spirits recently, and Jujutsu is not enough. How can I take a break at this time? Xiaoyu saw Gojo Satoru's caring expression, a trace of warmth crossed his heart, and the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, as he talked about his thoughts gently as usual. Gojo Satoru looked at Lee S. Xiaoyu with a normal face, with a trace of confusion across his face. Before he could ask, Yaga Masamichi called. Gojo Satoru's figure disappeared into the classroom in an instant.
Xiaoyu looked at the place where Gojo Satoru had left, her gentle expression disappeared, and a little altar of thought was revealed in her godless eyes. Enlightenment, it turns out, the gap between me and you is already so huge.
At this moment, the killing stone radiated a coquettish red light, sending its own power through the skin directly into the depths of Xiaoyu's soul.
Xiaoyu closed his eyes and felt the power of the killing stone. There was a trace of struggle on his face, and finally he was calm. Without strength, how can we carry out our beliefs? With his thoughts in mind, the familiar smile appeared on his face again.
Leaving school, embarked on the road of exorcising spirits. In the next 3 months, he has been in the cycle of removing the spirit and swallowing the spirit.
Chapter 273. Advertisement. Moonlight shines through the windows on the high walls into the dim meeting room. The lights on the candlestick have burned out, showing how long the meeting is today.
There was a vacancy around the long table this time, but no one paid any attention to where the person was at the moment. Everyone stared at the information in their hands with a solemn expression and sighs from time to time.
All talk about any thoughts. The main elder spoke, but the people on both sides still had no one to speak.
If no one of you speaks, this meeting will continue.
I think this information has yet to be verified. You can't think it must be true just because it is expensive.
The feminine man spoke first. He couldn't believe it, and he didn't want to believe that the content inside was true. With his beginning, he began to express his views one after another.
I think this is true. Otherwise, we just follow the Zenin family to resolve conflicts, right?
Bah. Zenin's cartilage is not worthy of being a member of the Jujutsu world. Do you want to be kicked out? From the current point of view, Zenin Ryuichi has gained a powerful force from Yaki Orochi. As long as we don't provoke him, he will probably not take the initiative to look for things. I agree with this suggestion. I don't agree. He is Zenin Ryuichi. Don't you tell him, he doesn't know?
I do not think so. Over time, the people who were doing it did not discuss the results.
But the general idea is that if you can reconcile, and you can treat it coldly.
As for those who smashed to the end, there were only 2 men, a feminine man and a strong man.
The 2 reached a consensus on their opinions on this matter.
You don't have to doubt the authenticity of the information. I have sent a person like Voheshir to confirm it. This was admitted by Zenin Ryuichi himself.
At this point, a wry smile appeared on the elder's face. A group of people are here plotting how to get rid of the gangster in the Jujutsu world, and this gangster has turned the whole Jujutsu world upside down.
The trouble is like this, and the reconciliation and ability have been minimal. Now, I order you to take care of your paws, and don't touch the places that shouldn't be touched, lest you see us all covered in blood.
Hiss. When everyone heard the decision of the elder, they took a breath in an instant. As powerful as those in the Jujutsu world, they have to retreat when encountering such characters. If this news is revealed, then the pending storm is no worse than this information. Even countless cursed divisions will unite to ask the man for asylum. Then, what should they do? The elder didn't pay attention to their entanglement, as if he had put down a stone in his heart. He was much more relaxed, and even the wrinkles on his face were lessened at this moment. Going to the next topic, today is the time for each company to report on the seal situation, starting with the Ambahai people, reporting one by one. Advertisement. The feminine man was still brooding about the elder's previous decision. His age was extremely ugly, but he nodded. In the past 5 years, the seal guarded by our clan has shown signs of loosening, and the guardian curse still has its former power. We are the same. So are we, seconded. The elder didn't care about their seal, frowning, but it was not easy to criticize. They can sit in this position, in addition to strength and means. There is another important factor. That is the seal. Otherwise, it is better than big 3 sorcerer families. Why can no one sit here and talk to them? The family of these people they are sitting in are guarding this seal, and no one knows what the seal is inside. Even Tien Yuan was just a tool man who guarded the seal. When they learned the news, they began to secretly lift Tien Yuan into the sky. Regularly send people to receive Tien Yuan into the family and stay for a few days. As a result, their hearts are getting more and more arrogant. The seal of the elders has become more and more unconcerned. Why didn't Yoshida River come today? I didn't pay attention during the meeting. At that time, Zenin Ryuichi's news was overwhelmed, and I didn't have the mind to observe. Now when I started to report one by one, I realized that there was one less person in the room. When Anbei heard the inquiry, he couldn't help making a tisk-tusk sound. What a major breakthrough in research, don't let us bother him. He is alive and well, and the seal must be fine. Although the elders are not happy, there is nothing to do. After all, the seal is one. If any one of them has a problem, the others will definitely find out. The meeting is over. Remember what I said, take care of your paws. The elder stood up, a ray of light flashed through his muddy eyes, and everyone who looked at him couldn't help but tremble. It was as if his secret had been completely probed by the light. And Beihiren looked at the elder with a gloomy expression, his fingers gripped the corners of his clothes, and wanted to stop him, but finally left the meeting room directly. Back home. After washing, he was dressed in a white hunting suit and long-haired shawl, but from the back, no one would regard him as a man. Boom boom boom. Wow, the door of the house opened. Advertisement. A servant in night clothes knelt before him. My lord, Jinhua Temple has been very peaceful recently, and nothing happened. The news made Beihiren frowned. Something is wrong. Isn't there any panic inside Jinhua Temple? In an instant, a thought emerged in his mind. They found a solution. Has any special person been in or out of the monastery recently? Some time ago, Jinhua Temple closed its gate and did not accept any offerings. It did not return to normal until the next day. Check. Check who that person is. Wait. If you find out who this person is, don't follow him. Yes. When the subordinate saw his adult's expression, the exposed eyes were full of shock. Who is that person? With this question in mind, he left the seaman's room and walked towards the testing courtyard. After all, he couldn't accomplish this kind of thing by himself. And Beihiren looked at his leaving subordinates, and couldn't help but have a trace of speculation about the mysterious person in his mouth. But he denied him in an instant. Impossible. It definitely can't be him. The more rejected in the heart, the more the figure of that person appeared in his mind. That stalwart body seemed to be carved into the depths of the soul. If you want to forget it, you can't forget it. The owner of the sealed things in the Golden Blossom Temple can only be my Beihiren. No matter who it is, I can't stop my footsteps. Early the next morning, Fuhesher appeared in front of the House of Everything with a look of excitement. Put the gift in hand in front of Nanami Kento. If it's a gift, please allow me to refuse. It's not a gift, it's a reward for being serious and responsible for your recent work. After all, I am also the second owner of the House of Everything. It is also my job to be compassionate to the employees. Nanami Kento looked at Sheer in front of him differently and nodded, accepting this statement. Ryuichi. Do you know how much we earned from that news? Chapter 274 Advertisement. The boss is not here today, please come back another day if you have something to do. Fuhesher's smile froze on his face. Have you said this several times? You are so proficient, then do you know where you went? I don't know, it's not my turn to move, the boss asked. Shire's face was shocked. Resentment, definitely resentment. This guy finally had a grudge against the unscrupulous boss. Hello Nanami Kento. Is your boss here? Gojo Satoru appeared at the door of the House of Everything with that frivolous voice. The boss is not here today, please come back another day if you have something to do. Nanami Kento's mechanical voice came out. The small task has the second boss Fuhesher, and the big task boss handles it himself. Just a hitter in charge of chores. This kind of front desk work is also part of his work. In this regard, he said he was used to it. Oh, blind man, why did you come to chat free today? Recently, the number of cursed spirits in various places in Fusong has decreased, and Sha Yu doesn't know what he's up to, so I just went out and strolled around. What about you? The lame. If you don't take your children at home, what should you do if you get crushed by a car when you come out? Are you trying to fight? Come. Gojo Satoru lowered his head and looked at Shire with his blue eyes.
A strong smell of gunpowder burst out between the two, as if the two of them would do it directly in the next second.
If you want to fight, please leave my scope of work. If you mess up here, it will make it difficult for me to do it. Gojo Satoru looked at Nanami Kento in the house strangely.
What has this guy experienced here? How did your personality become so weird?
Just forget it, I recently found a new dessert shop, and now it seems I can only taste it myself. Goodbye. Without stopping, Gojo Satoru walked straight ahead and waved at them. Shire looked at Nanami Kento, and the Buddha had something to say in his throat, but he couldn't say it. Silently made a decision in my heart. In the future, if Ryuichi can't send the bonus, he will send it. Since the boss is not here, he is meaningless here. It's been a long time since I saw the kid Todo Aoi, I don't know if I was lazy. Advertisement, check it out today. By the way, Zenin Ryuichi, who both of them are looking for, is wandering on the street at the moment. I still remember the last time I wandered, it was the day when the Yachi Orochi made a noise in the business district. The snacks in the office have basically been eaten, and it's time to add something. Ah, Ryuichi. Is that you? Are you coming out to accompany me shopping today? Suddenly, a scream came from behind him. Doling pulled Xiangyu and appeared next to Ryuichi instantly. For Daling, it doesn't matter if it is not. The important thing is that she knows that this man will not respond to this. If you don't respond, that's it. Daling looked at the enviable gazes of the girls around him triumphantly, and deliberately raised his chest twice. It seemed to be a silent mockery of them. Those girls who had nothing to look at were stomped by this action, blushing and leaving the mall. After a short while, there will be no opposite S*X within 15 meters. If you talk about Ling, Why is the appearance and figure online at the same time? For brains. Xiangyu looked at Ryuichi's face, still very scared. Why did he feel close to him last time in the monastery? There was a hint of curiosity in her beautiful eyes. She wanted to explore the truth, but she didn't know where to start. Fuso Kobe. There are almost no pedestrians on the streets under the moonlit night. Only people in certain special industries swayed from side to side on the reddish streets. Occasionally one or two drunk men will pull them into the room behind them. In a dark alley by the bar, an unragged hobo holding a dagger let a newly dressed man lie on the wall. A robbery is taking place. Take out all the money, or I will stab you. Big brother, I will give you everything, don't hurt me. Hurry up. Don't TM the ink to Lao Su, as well as the ring on your hand and the necklace from your neck, take them off. The person who was robbed quickly took out his finances and dared not make any reservations.
Big brother, can I go now? You speak. If you don't speak, I will leave. I am really leaving.
The man in the suit asked the person behind him cautiously, but received no response. Looking back, pretending to be courageous, he found that the tramp had already disappeared. Wealth to eliminate disasters, wealth to eliminate disasters. No way, AQ spirit, inspire everyone. Ouch. Just as he raised his leg to leave this place of right and wrong, he was suddenly tripped over by something.
Advertisement. Seeking flowers. The night was too dark, and he stroked his eyes, trying to see what had tripped him up.
Still can't see clearly. Let's hurry and leave here to avoid being robbed by another person. At this moment, a gust of wind blew by, and the moon escaped from the shadow of the dark clouds at this moment.
The white moonlight sprinkled on the earth. The originally dark alley also has a faint light at this moment.
The man in the suit couldn't restrain his curiosity and looked back.
Ah!
The tramp was lying on the ground before, and his bloodshot eyes were staring at him.
As soon as the scream came out, he blocked it with his hand.
If someone finds out now, he is justified and can't tell.
Leave now. Before running to the entrance of the alley, a trace of dissatisfaction crossed his face.
Zero seeing the immortal eyes of the tramp, he forcibly endured the fear in his heart, gritted his teeth, and took back the things that belonged to him from the hands of the corpse.
At this time, there was no regret in my heart, and I left this alley with the fastest speed.
Then, a weak figure crawled towards the body of the tramp.
He raised his head and looked in a certain direction, with a little eagerness in his eyes. As if wanting the person in front to wait for himself.
No longer hesitate, looking down at the fresh corpse in front of him. A bloodthirsty red appeared in his eyes, as if seeing the supreme delicacy, he licked his lips. There was a sound of chewing in the alley. Within half an hour, this figure appeared in another street.
There is still a fresh corpse on the ground. The same thing has happened continuously for almost a month.
But not many people in the local area knew about this. Some people even lament that the current law and order is much better than before. Early the next morning, boom boom boom, squeak. An old lady who was over 60 years old opened the door of the house.
Hello, I am a psychology student. This time I was appointed by the school to come to counsel you. Come in and sit, come in and sit. Let me tell you, there have been supernatural phenomena in my family recently. Tell the children about it, but I still don't believe it.
You have to introduce me to a psychiatrist. If you are really here, let me see if you are sick. The old man glanced at the young man's name badge. Shayuja, I beg you, to.
Chapter 275. Advertisement. Time was hurried, and it was mid-September in a blink of an eye.
The Anbei Heron took his hands down outside the gate of Jinhua Temple. Looking up to the temple plaque, the simple meaning of the bearer of the gold-lacquered characters came to my heart. This thing called desire emerged from the depths of Anbei's eyes. Right here, today I will take away that suppressed thing.
In fact, he can wait until the sealed thing breaks through the seal on its own. Taking advantage of its weakness, it just happens to be able to gather in groups and attack it to subdue it.
But everything changes because of one person, that is Zenin Ryuichi. He has found out that the abbot of Jinhua Temple is willing to pay the treasure of the temple as a reward. Change the protection of Zenin Ryuichi. Really wait until then. Regardless of the outcome of the battle between the two, it is impossible for him to take it away.
This is something Anbahai people are extremely unwilling to see.
Those who are not on my Ojis will besiege the monastery in May 40th, and those who are left, follow me in.
Tatada. The neat footsteps gradually moved away.
Pushing open the door, there was no one in the courtyard. The Anbei Heron was not surprised, and tried to wink at his hands. Whizzing. Count to the sound of breaking through the air. In the next moment, one or two guard posts with steel knives appeared on each of the auxiliary halls. There was also a dog god standing beside him. After arranging everything, Anbei took the lead and walked towards the main hall. He has simulated this subjugation plan countless times in his mind. The root of the entire Golden Blossom Temple was clearly engraved in his mind. In order to succeed this time, he even invited the ancestors Shijin Xuanwu. Conquer this time without error. The words are divided into two ends. In a taxi speeding down the street, Sister Daling, I have a very bad premonition. My chest is like being pressed by a boulder. I must go back and take a look. Xiangyu, don't worry, it's coming soon. Relax, wait, driver, please get to the bottom. Dailing suddenly discovered that Jinhua Temple was surrounded by a group of people like ancient warriors. Take a closer look, and even on the roof of the temple, there are many people who worship the same people. Xiangyu, look at those people, are they in your monastery? Xiangyu raised her head and followed the line of sight she pointed at. Advertisement, I haven't seen these people, is it here to seek revenge? Although the monks are not gregarious in the Jujutsu world, their kindness to others should not be revenge. Could it be that, Master Driver, turn around, go to the House of Everything on Fujin Road? Xiangyu, don't worry, what's the matter? Didn't I say that Mr. Ryuichi has agreed to take action against the demon? This group of people is probably afraid that Mr. Ryuichi will kill the demon, and now they are ready to release it in advance. Xiangyu only hopes that Mr. Ryuichi will be there at this moment, otherwise the Jinhua Temple will be. In the main hall of Jinhua Temple at this moment, Anbei Heron and his Onmyoji were standing in front of the door. An elderly body stood in front of them. Dear benefactors, today I will clean the temple and I will not pick up guests for the time being. I hope you will forgive me. Wow. A voice sounded, and Bai Heron had a folding fan in his hand, blocking his face. On the front is the word, and the back is portrayed with turtles and snakes Xuanwu. Our Onmyoji, accepting the commission of the Golden Blossom Temple, come to destroy the devil. From now on, you don't need to chant every day. Happy. Shufu Throne's brows furrowed tightly, and the Buddha beads stopped in his hands, no longer turning. The eyes are full of solemn colors. What the hell are Anbei's doing today? He was running around because of the seal. Whether it is Jujutsu High School or Jujutsu Association, they have maintained an attitude of keeping a distance. Among them is the Anbei family, if it is not desperate. How could he go to help such a dangerous man? What I thought in my heart, I only hope Xiangyu saw the situation in the monastery and went to the man for help. Otherwise, after today, the Golden Blossom Temple may become history. A few weeks ago, I withdrew the offer for help from Jujutsu. Why do you meet again today? Old guy. It's your great blessing for my master to come to help you. You are still asking questions here. After delaying time, are you responsible? That's it. In order to eliminate the demons this time, my master specially invited the ancestors to sit down with the 12-type god Xuanwu. You still don't thank you for your kindness. The corners of Anbei's mouth lifted up, his heart was full of disdain, and he didn't explain what they said. Shufu Throne frowned and looked at the situation in front of him, feeling even more sociable in his heart. Even Xuanwu invited over. It seems that today's matter cannot be reconciled. His head finally lowered at this moment, then thank you sir for helping to eliminate demons. Everyone, today, Jujutsu World Onmyojis accepted our entrustment to help us destroy the devil. If there is no curse, please leave the temple temporarily. Advertisement at this time, the monks sitting next to the Buddha statue turned their attention away. Looking at the old man outside the door in surprise. No more nonsense. One after another stood up and walked out of the hall. Ready to open the monastery. This is what they said before, if you encounter danger, you must not be strong. If you can run, you can run. As long as one person is alive, the monastery will not disappear. Shufu Throne looked at the monk who was leaving, his heart full of sentimentality. I don't know how many people will be left in the Shufu department after today. Everyone, please follow me into the hall. The Anbei Heron took his performance in his eyes. There was no demolition on the spot, tearing the skin. After all, his main purpose is not here. The huge Buddha statue is still accompanied by Zen sounds and is located in the main hall. There is no warm current, no fantasy, everything is so normal. It seems to be dead. Anbei Heron stood in front of the Buddha statue stand. Looking up at its eyebrows, the joy is beyond words. There is the center of the seal. As long as the prepared medicine is poured in, the entire seal will disappear directly. As long as the plan is implemented smoothly, he will stand directly on top of the Jujutsu world. Old monk, quickly open the letter. The people of Anbei could no longer hold back their ecstasy, and they could not wait to tear down the whole hall directly. Sorry, there is nothing I can do. The Great Buddha is not only a seal formation, it is also a defensive magic weapon. According to Jujutsu industry standards, it is at least a special first-class cursed tool. It was made to seal evil things. Apart from being hard, it has no characteristics. He wants to destroy, but can't do anything. Next, apply this thing to the center of the eyebrows of the Buddha statue, and I can let you go. If you don't follow, you will have no inheritance since today. I, Anbei, promised in the name of my ancestors. Shufu Throne looked at the dark potion in his hand. From time to time, there was a phantom rushing towards the wall. Feel the energy in this. His body began to tremble, and goosebumps spread all over his body instantly. Inside, it was actually a second-level cursed spirit.